So after months of anticipation, weeks of drivers practicing, getting their cars ready, and of course a 7-day delay, we'd like to welcome you to the first round of the 2012 iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. Alongside me in the booth for this, the first race, will be Marius Gonnebeck and Mark Fangerman. A very good afternoon to you guys, and we're here, finally. We had that week delay, but we're at Spa, and everything looks as though it's going to be amazing.
Evening from me, although it's not really evening, it's rather in the middle of the day. Yeah, the series moved a bit forward, so the guys can race under daylight this time. 1 week of delay as the very first round has been cancelled due to some issues. We're still going to start on Spa-Francorchamps just as planned, and we're about to get the Pro Series 2012 underway.
And today we'll be racing for 44 laps around this beautiful track set in the Ardennes Mountains in Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. But 44 laps of this track, and we're doing this twice over the next 9 weeks. This really is one of the most grueling racetracks in the entire world.
I cannot recall a single person who does not like this track. Well, apart from me, I'm not really the biggest fan, but still it is an amazing track. Just over 7 kilometers in length, the highest and the longest track in the season so far, and usually known for some great racing here. We've got lots of straights, we've got lots of fast turns, lots of slow turns, basically all the pedigree a good racetrack needs, and we've got the best drivers in the service so far, except for the DWC, which ended a month ago. So this should really be the best racing in the service so far, and we're glad that you tuned in.
And you know, we talk about Spa, it's got so much heritage. It's got some of the most famous corners in the world. You mean the Erouge Radial Complex, you've got, you know, the Funga Chicane, Fouan, of course, the bus stop chicane to top off that. Passing is actually possible here, but a good qualifying is what's also going to be important as well.
Speaking of qualifying, the qualifying sessions are just about to go underway, and we're going to have you on the session in a minute. For now, you see the black screen on your screen, so we're just waiting for the qualifyings to appear, and then we're going to jump on the track and going to get you some game footage.
Yes, and this qualifying session is going to be important for a number of these drivers, because some of these drivers, you know, they're going to want to make a statement very early on in this series, and getting a good qualifying position here, you know, could not only set yourself up for a good race, but also a season as well. And to run through the way the Pro Series will work, there are 55 drivers who are eligible to race in the 2012 iRacing Pro Series of Road Racing. 30 of those have qualified in the previous 9 months by placing in the top 10 of the iRacing.com Grand Prix Series. And on top of that, 25 drivers who missed the cut in the 2012 iRacing Grand Prix World Championship Series are also eligible to race here today. Some of these drivers, Marius, they've got to get, you know, the job done early on just to qualify for this race.
Surely all of them are very excited here, and we've got just over 30 drivers here, so yes, you have to make a statement in the qualifying already. The season isn't really that long. We've just got 10 races here every week, basically, with a small break around Christmas. And if you want to be in the top runners for the season, you really have to nail every race, as you've just got 2 drop results.
So just 2 drop races for these drivers, and the way the series will work as well, you've really got to make sure that you get on it very early on, just to have the chance of keeping that momentum forward. I mean, we're going to a variety of racetracks. As I said, we are racing here twice at Spa, but when you look further into the season, some of these drivers, you know, they've got tracks that they like, they've got tracks that they don't like. For example, we're going to Motegi next week, we're going then to Indianapolis, Silverstone, Phillip Island, Road America, Watkins Glen, back to Spa and finishing the season at Suzuka. A big variety of tracks, and for some of these guys, you know, this might be the best chance they have of getting a good result.
Not just getting a good result, it's surely about more. The start of the season, so lots of these guys have been driving the car very much extensively in the beginning of this year already. So we've got the guys coming from the DWC, the top 25 of course staying in the Drivers' World Championship for next year, keeping their license, and everyone under the 25th position losing their license, being degraded to the pro license. And They are mixed up with the guys from the Grand Prix series who managed to qualify for the Pro Series in the 2012 season, first 3 seasons in fact, and well, that is just under the Drivers' World Championship in best of the best, so nothing less than absolutely psyched guys here, all well prepared for the race, and just the fastest guys in the Formula 1.
Indeed, yes, and having a look at PJ Sturgis, who's on track at the moment, he's currently sat in the 12th position. He's a driver who's really made a name for himself, and he's actually about 5 seconds behind on the racetrack from, sorry, I take that back, from David Decorbs. But these drivers, they're going to have to try and get a clean lap in early, I think, is what most drivers are wanting. A clean lap in early in this session, just to kind of take the pressure off themselves a little bit, and then try and build on that later on in this session. I mean, it's only 15 minutes a session in what they can do, but it's going to be tough for them. They've really got to nail it early on, because they've only really got 3 laps that they can actually, you know, set a time on.
For the guys who've been following the Pro Series last year, there are some changes, especially due to the qualifying format. We are using the same qualifying format as in the DWC here, so 1 car on track, there are no cars around you, so you're basically alone on the track. Still though, Will said it, it's still difficult to get a clean lap in. Spa is pretty much known for the extensive possibilities of getting an off-track here. We've got Pouhon, we've got Stavelot-le-Combe, everywhere they can just put a tire on the grass, put a tire on the tarmac, just off the line, and you'll have an off-track in no time. And with a good lap running, you probably don't want that. Still, with the multiple possibilities of getting an off-track here, the guys really need to focus here and post a good time right away.
Indeed, yeah. I'm having a look at a couple of these drivers, and out front, I mean, the qualifying time for Aleski Yusi Yakola is a 1 minute 46.477. He's got himself a 15/100ths of a second gap to Jorge DG Fino in the 62 car, but, I mean, we're thinking that's a good time. We would think that Aleski will probably end up in the top 5, but do you think right now anyone's got the chance of improving on that much?
It's hard to say, really. Just going through the name list here, we've got lots of great guys driving. Currently on the track, for example, we've got Richie Stanaway, who won the Series 3 here in the Grand Prix Series. We've got Samuel Libert, who came from the DWC, Emil Spindle in 6th position from the DWC. So we've not only got the good newcomers here, we've also got the veterans, Joao Cardoso, for example, also from the DWC earlier. So they are really mixing up with the guys, and Stanaway just across the line puts the car between Libert and Spindle on 6th position.
Indeed, yeah, and all of these results that we're talking about are provisional for the time being, until these cars actually line up on the grid. Most of these results will be classified as provisional. But having a look through the field, the spread of the drivers from 1st position all the way down to 25th is less than 1.5 seconds. So very competitive field out front. In fact, throughout the entire field at the moment, there's a couple of drivers literally separated by a couple of hundredths here, a couple of thousandths there, and I'm having a look, but Samuel Liebert in 6th, Richie Stanaway in 7th, they're separated by just 3/1000th of a second on the racetrack, and that is a minute, I mean, that equates, I believe, about a couple of inches on this 4.35 mile racetrack.
And we've just got a new pole setter here so far. 10 minutes of the qualifying done, 15 minutes overall. And well, we have to say you only get to do 3 laps here, and depending on when you cross the line, if a lap is bad or if a lap is good, you're wasting 1 lap. And Udaina Rumi just put the car on the pole position here, also known as his incredibly quickness. He's shown that throughout the whole season here, also in season 3, one of the top runners in the Grand Prix series. So he's bested Alexius Yakola in 2nd position so far. 3:83.46 that is, puts him on the pole so far. 3rd lap done for him, so it's over for him so far.
Yeah, and I'm having a look to see whether or not Yakola will have the chance to respond to that. He is in the 54 car. He has done his 3 laps, so he will not get pole position here today. It looks more and more likely that is going to be Narumi in the 76 car with that time of 1 minute 46.383. And I believe that we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a track tutorial, Marius. Take us through.
Yeah, we're gonna have the CST track tutorial here at Spa. Most of the viewers should know this track. Most of the viewers should also have driven it in the service. Still though, it's a track which you want to know since it's one of the longest in the service here. You probably want to drive it more than once to get to know all the corners. So we've got a little bit of a track preview here coming up. So take a look at the track and enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to our second episode of Track Guides. This week we are going to one of the most legendary tracks of all time, Spa-Francorchamps. Originally built in 1920s, the track has had many changes through the years, evolving from one of the fastest and unfortunately the most deadliest tracks into a very modern circuit. The corners at this track are known through the whole racing world, or rouge, radion, one, Blanchement. However, it's not all about the fast corners. The very first corner is one of the slowest in the calendar, and as drivers are about to finish their lap, they need to negotiate through the bus stop. The long straights ask for minimum downforce, but the long fast corners require maximum grip. So again, the setup will be a big compromise. The best overtaking points are entering Le Gond and the bus stop. Braking stability is the key in these places. Let's jump on board Martti Pietilä, who will tell us how to get through this magnificent track.
Brake hard for the first corner. It's really important to get right, so you can get the power down early. It's one of the longest full throttle sections we have, so you need all the speed you can get. Going through a rouge, full throttle, turning the bottom of the corner, get near to curbs, and especially the last one, attack it really aggressively. Getting ready for the next corners, use the curb on the left side on the braking and turn in. Watch out for the second corner, it's a bit bumpy in the middle if you ride the curb, otherwise just accelerate through. Then rivage, difficult slow corner, bumpy in the middle, the car might unsettle a bit, power down. Downhill towards Buhon, which is a beautiful corner, almost flat out, just a slight lift in the entry, then back on full throttle, 6th gear, then 7th gear, and getting ready for the next corners. You need really good setup here because the car will need to change directions fast and respond to your inputs. Accelerate out towards one of the most important corners here, heading to the back straight. Watch out for the green tarmac on the left hand side of the curb. It's really slippery. If you get there, you will get wheel spin and lose momentum to the back straight. Heading towards Blanchiment, a fast corner flat out, which leads to the bus stop. Good place for overtaking. Brake hard and use the curbs on both sections of the chicane. Accelerate hard, watch out for the green stuff again, and there you have the lap. It's World Tour week, so hopefully see you in both the World Championship and the World Tour race. Until next time, bye.
So that was a drive around this circuit of Spa-Francorchamps in the eyes of the CST Azura machine, number 44 car. Marius, while all of that was going on, a change for second position in the qualifying order. Yokotai's been bumped down to third. Take us through it.
Yeah, we've only got a change in the top 3 here so far, as the guys were running their last lap times here. Nevertheless, Yudaina Rumi takes pole position for the first of the 2012 Pro Series races here on Spa-Francorchamps. 1 minute 46.383 for the guy from Japan. Pretty impressive time, nevertheless. But he only bested Moga de Gefilo by 0.2, in fact, and Alexi Usiakola by 3. And they'll be right at his tail through the whole race. I think, well, there's just no difference in times. Davide Cor in 4th, Enzo Bonito 5th, Emil Spindel in 6th, Samuel Libert, also he came from the DWC together with Spindel, only in 7th position, Christian Lorente in 8th, Richie Stanaway, who won the Series 3 in 9th, and Teemu Ivonen completing the 10. And between Ivonen and Jodaina Rumi, it's only a gap of 5.5 tenths.
Yeah, it's very, very close all the way through the field. I mean, Narumi Tafila, 23 1,000ths of a second. You blink, and that is the gap between those two drivers. That is 76 and the 62 machine, respectively. From Filo down to Yakola is what? Another 13 1,000ths of a second. Very, very close racing here today. And that's going to translate quite a lot into the race itself. One of the key things that might come out of this, Marius, is that strategy and pit stops are going to be so critical here.
That's what we've seen in the Grand Prix series, that's what we've seen in the iRacing World Championship, and it might be the case that staying out one lap longer, one lap shorter on this kind of a long track, it will be absolutely benefiting you or destroying you. There's nothing in between. You either make the right decision or you don't, and with 7 kilometers of track to go and you're running out of fuel, it's going to cost you a whole lot of time, and even if the tires are just slightly destroyed, you're still going to have to cover lots and lots of tarmac to get back through the pits. So going in the mid-pack of the qualifying results, like we said, Teemu Ivonen completing the top 10, followed by Simon Cattell, Laurent Betaille, Joao Cardoso in 13, and then it's just a matter of hundreds and thousands. So for example, between Cardoso and Peterson, we've got 200th, Fabio Docamo in 15th, 100th, PJ Sturgis in 16th, another 100th, Vasily Taichev in 17th, another 100th, and Andrea Baldi in 18th is not even a second off the leaders here. So top 19, in fact, with Joao Pinho on 19, 9.9 tenths behind the leader, and that is just incredibly close.
Yeah, so the top 19 drivers separated by less than 1 second on the racetrack, and you go pretty much all the way down to the bottom. It's only Thiago Alfaro in the 29th position in the 66 car that was outside the 1.5 second bracket, and Wes Richards didn't set a qualifying time. So to run through the rest of your field, as say in the 20th position, Miguel Martin 1.012 seconds behind the race leader. Paul Ilbrank set a time of 1 minute 47.574, with Pierre Ubizo in the 60 machine, a 1 minute 56.159. Xavier Bussons in the 69 car will line up in the 23rd position, with Joni Tomaria in the 24th spot. Dave Geelink in 25th, Jason Lover in 26th, Ryan Terp to 27th, Marcus Caton in the 28th position, with Thiago Alfaro 29th, and Wes Richards in the 30th position.
And, well, 28 cars qualified, well, 30 qualified, but 28 cars set a lap time here. And between these 28, the fastest and the slowest are just apart by 1.3 seconds. And we're speaking about nearly 2 minutes in lap time here. And, well, we've had shorter tracks than this and not even that much gap. So I think the Pro Series is just setting a new pinnacle of performance here, then, because I mean even the top runners are so close together, it's just going to be a very exciting race.
Yeah, the entire field separated pretty much by less than a second and a half on a track that takes, about 1 minute 40 seconds to complete a lap on. Really is something that these drivers should be proud of already, and we've not even turned a single wheel in race conditions yet. And you have a look through the field, it is going to be so close, it's going to be so tight. That run down to turn number 1, we'll come back to that in a couple of moments' time, but incredible driving by these drivers.
Indeed, incredible driving, and we're very much looking forward to the race here. 10 minutes to go until the lights go green at Spa-Francorchamps. First round of the Pro Series 2012 here. Until then, we've got a little bit more video footage here, excitement of iRacing. So for all the guys who just seen this, maybe new, this is what iRacing is about, so take a good look at this.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing.
So welcome back to the pre-race show for round number 1 of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing here live on GlacierTV. And Marius, one of the things I want to talk to you about is the start of this race. We're going to be funneling around 30 cars down into one of the slowest corners, not only at Spa, but in the world for the start of this race. It is going to be treacherous down there.
It is really going to be, and I remember just 1 year ago, I was driving the same combo as the start of the Pro Series. I had a little bit of qualifying problems, so I only started in somewhat about 25th. And in the first turn, there was so much mayhem, and you just think, all right, you're through it now, the race starts, you're kind of settling in, and you go through Eau Rouge, you go down the straight, and as soon as I were in Le Combe, there was absolute mayhem. And cars everywhere pretty much, so we'll hope it's not going to be that much mayhem this time. Still though, a 90-degree, more than 90-degree turn for the first hairpin, and it is pretty much a recipe for mayhem right there.
And as these cars, stream down the hill through the Eau Rouge Radio Complex, up the Kemmel Straightaway, down into their comms, you talked about, these cars, they get up to their top speed at that point, and then you slow them down once again to go into Le Combe, and you really can't, start even taking a breath until you complete that first lap, because there's danger at every turn. After you get out of Le Combe, you rush it down to Rivage. After Rivage, you essentially through Pouin, Fagnes, and before you know it, you're down at the bus stop chicane. Another slow corner where we've seen before cars running into the back of each other, trying to make a pass, and it all going wrong on them.
And well, I want to speak a bit about the teams behind these drivers. Of course, no official teams in the service yet. Nevertheless, there is something planned. But we've seen many of the guys here in the DWC, for example, Emil Spindel for CST Jura Racing and Samuel Lebert for Team Radicals. And we've got also drivers from My380 Gaming and Team Redline in this grid. So it's kind of like the guys from the big teams and the DWC drivers are now sending their rookies and their maybe newcomer drivers into these races, and I think it's just the best way to prepare them for the DWC.
Indeed, yeah, and at this time it might be worth talking about Ricky Alatalo, who I think is the first driver in history to completely drop out this Pro Series altogether. He managed to qualify his way into the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series just by, doing that. Actually, I take that back. I believe it was Jake Sturgis who did it last year. So some drivers can make that jump up, but for others, this really is a big proving ground for them.
The best kind of proving ground on the best kind of track for the start of the season. So, well, for the first round, we've basically got the best pedigree here. Spa, not only known as brilliant track for racing, but also known brilliant with the FW31. We've had some physics changes in this season, also in the last season. So these guys are running on a quite different build than the guys in the DWC. So we're going to see how that plays out. Nevertheless, we've had some issues with the draft and the aero loss, and especially in dirty air, you kind of tend to run into understeer very quickly here. We've got lots of fast turns, Pouin, Le Combe, and yeah, it's going to be a question if that's going to be a problem for the drivers.
Indeed, yeah. And just to go back to that team thing you were talking about, I mean, I know you have many association with one of the teams. I've had association with them before, but the way that these teams prepare for such a big series like this, you're talking, hours in test sessions, in the practice sessions, over and over again, just not trying to hone those lap times down. And these cars, they have got so much downforce on them that you can really attack the corner. But the older veterans, they are imperative to some of these younger drivers to, show them the way in what is going to be a non-stop series all the way through till January.
We're going to give you a little bit more of insight through the schedule of the Pro Series here. So we've already said the first race of the season has been cancelled. So actually this would be the second race already. Nevertheless, will be the same combo than the first race was planned. So this is the first week of the series. We've got 10 races overall, of which one got cancelled, so there are 9 left for now. Nevertheless, the drivers have got 2 drops, the first one obviously being dropped already, so 1 drop remains for them. Starting the series here tonight at Spa, 44 laps to go for the drivers, so we've got the same distance than in the DWC series. And I've been talking about the teams with you just a minute ago. I think nothing hasn't really changed of the fuel, and well, the strategies might have shifted a little bit, but still you're going with similar strategies. So I think it will be an advantage for drivers from big teams like 3ID, Redline, Radicals, Ajira, to really know the track already. Basically, drivers from these teams have driven multiple times this season, and they've got approved things already.
Indeed, and that will be useful when you're thinking out those strategy options. Also having, I think, some of these veteran drivers coaching them through this first race might be imperative as well, you know. A lot of these drivers might want to try and make big moves early on, trying to get themselves into a good position, but we talk about this. This is 44 laps long, exactly the same distance as the Grand Prix World Championship Series, the same distance they race in real life. You've got to pace yourself over these 44 laps. You've got yourself, you know, pit stops to think about. You've got yourself track placement to think about. You've got lap traffic to think about. You're right. These bigger teams can really help the younger drivers in their stables move up. But some of the independents as well, you know, they're going to want to set out a statement. We can beat the Red Lions and My 3ID, the Radical drivers, and it'll be interesting to see some of the independent drivers, see how their luck fares.
2 minutes to go until we're going green here. The session opens just a bit off practice for the drivers, so 5 minutes past 2 GMT. We're going to go and have the race underway here. 30 drivers qualified, so we'll see how much of them actually show up. Nevertheless, I think, well, 30 drivers should be enough to make the first turn even tighter than it already is. So looking forward to the first turn, the first lap, and it will take quite long to make through how much of the race pace the guys can translate from the qualifying, but I think the first turn will already be the big step towards a good result tonight.
Yes, I think these drivers will want to be looking for a good, solid top 10 finish at the very least. Some drivers, you know, might be looking for the win. They might be looking for a bit more than that, but I think personally, if you can get yourself a good top 10 finish here today, that will set your season up. And you know, whilst there are prizes on offer, whilst, of course, there's the glory for the driver who does win this series, the important thing that some of these drivers need to realise at the same time is that essentially you just need to get yourself into the top 25 to have the chance of racing in the Grand Prix World Championship Series next year. So you are quickly looking at the famous GlacierTV Black Swing. We'll be bringing you live footage from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in about a minute's time. And Marius, we've been talking about this series, you know, between ourselves for a good couple of months now. And ever since we announced coverage of this series, the anticipation, the hype has just been off the scale. And I mean, I'm going to have to ask you though, have you got a winner for the series lined up in your head yet?
For the series, that's going to be a hard one. We've got so many different tracks, and it's so stuffed. It's a season which fits right into a regular season 4 schedule here. So it's 1/4 the length of the DWC. So it's really hard to say who's got the best chances. I would be ready to talk about this race. I think, yeah, the top 3 already shown the best chances. Alexius Jakola in 3 already known from the DWC, and the 2 other guys, Moga de Gefilo, also known from the DWC already due to some guest starts. But I think my bet would be on the 3rd place, Alexius Jakola. He's been showing good performance in the DWC, and well, the 2 guys ahead might not be that experienced, but I think at least Moga will have the proper practice. I can't really say about Udai, but for me, Alexi might be the best bet for tonight.
Indeed, I'm probably going to second that for you, but it is interesting looking at those 2 drivers out front. Can they, you know, get into a position where they got a chance to win this race and cause a bit of an upset early on? Because essentially, you know, these drivers have kept themselves a bit of a low profile these previous couple of weeks. I think that the drivers who had their position cemented, you know, in you know, 3-6 months ago, they're going to be the ones who's really got the best chance because they've got all that extra practice time.
And you're going to need the practice with a 10-week season, and almost every weekend you've got a race. So with no practice, having just 1 week of preparing, I mean, compared to almost 1 month in the Grand Prix series, in the World Championship Grand Prix series, that is, of course, it is seriously stuffed. So if you don't work straight away, basically you're finishing Spa this weekend, and on Sunday you have to go and already practice for the second round.
And that's going to be the thing. Can these drivers stick the stamina over the 9-week season? And, you know, these races are so long, the amount of practice that these drivers have to do, not just for the race as well, you know, you've got to get yourself a decent qualifying setup just to be able to get that car placed well enough in the grid to have a chance at winning these races. It's going to be intense. And we go back to that team thing one more time, and I think that is where these big teams have got the chance of, you know, helping out their drivers once again by taking some of that workload off them.
We'll be back with some moving pictures for you here, of course. The session going underway in a little less than 3 minutes. So the video feed is up again. Say hello to the beautiful scenery of Spa-Francorchamps, the Ardennes roller coaster, as they call it, and one brilliant venue for the start of the series. All 30 drivers of the qualifying here showed up, and well, with 1.3 seconds between P28 and P1, it's going to be such an exciting race.
It is going to be exciting, and it is going to be so close as well. And I think that battle from kind of about 5th place all the way through to 15th, that's going to come down to pit stops, in my opinion, because, you know, passing is doable. But you talked about the draft, and you talked about that dirty air, which has kind of made it a lot more difficult to overtake. And you're going to have to use every tool in your arsenal, really, to make it happen. And I think pit stops could be the critical factor here today.
44 laps times 7 kilometers is a very long distance. One lap, in fact, has 21 turns, and I don't want to speak about the height difference between these turns. So you're really going straight up Eau Rouge, for example. It's a high compression area, and if your setup isn't absolutely perfect for these fast turns and height differences, you're going to run into a lot of problems with worn-out tires. And we're thinking of at least 2-stop strategy here, but maybe a 3-stop strategy will be an option. Definitely time to try it out. And, well, I think the guys, especially in the mid-pack of the race, so say 147 low, 11th, 12th position, for example, they might be trying something a little bit riskier, just to try to get the leapfrog, or just to try to get some thin air, and, well, break free if you can, but with this much draft and this much straight, it's sure going to be a hard job.
Indeed. Everything is going to be very, very difficult for this race. These drivers are going to have to be on it all race long. The checkered flag is out. We're going to go to the grid in just a couple of seconds time here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. To run through your top 10 drivers one more time, it is Yudi Namori in the 76 car who will be leading the way here for the start of this race. Morgan DG Filo will line up in second. Leski Yusi in the 3rd spot with David D. Corps in 4th. Enzo Benito in 5th. Emil Spindle in 6th. Samuel Lieber in 7th. Christian Lorente in 8th. Richie Stanaway in 9th. And Timo Evening will round out your top 10. You see there the drivers now starting to line up on the grid. The lights will go on, and then they'll go green. And as soon as that goes, we'll be racing here for 44 laps around this 4.35 mile, 21 corner, absolute epic of a racetrack.
Japanese Yudai Narumi has set the car on pole position here, so we're going to have him leading into the first turn, question mark. Start is a big question in these cars. Alexio Siakola in 3rd, Moga de Gefilo between them, and Enzo Bonito in 5th, Emil Spindle, Samuel Libert from the DWC. All of these drivers need a good start, and we're about to go green.
Yeah, the lights are off on the Grand Prix. As soon as they go green, they're going to be racing here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, waiting for those lights to go green. They are out! And we're racing here at Spa. These cars coming down to turn number 1 already. And I tell you what, DG Filo's got a great start. He's going to try and go from 18 coming into turn number 1. And it looks like he's got it as they come down the hill.
He has got it. Less traction for Yudai Narumi. Now he's in the slipstream. Nevertheless, Moga got the great run out of the first turn. And a little bit of trouble in the first turn so far. Not really that much contact. And all the cars go through the Eau Rouge for the first time and approaching Le Combe.
So Narumi has got himself a great draft. He's going to look to the outside line as they come down into Lacoon for the first time. It's going to be Remy. He's going to take back. That race lead doesn't quite overshoot there. A big bold maneuver there. And Yakola is now looking to the outside as they come out of Lacoon. He's going to take second position away. So Morgan GD Philo, who got the race lead into turn number 1, is down into the 3rd position. And it's all change out front early on here.
He was first, Mogadegi Philo, now being tossed down directly to 3rd position, and Emil Spindler right behind him from 6th. Now he's already in 4th, and also Enzo Bonito keeping his 5th position right at his tail. So far, no big changes here, a bit of scrap here and there, but no big incidents so far. Your leader still is Yudai Narumi, followed by Alexi Usiakola and Mogadegi Philo.
Yeah, and it looks like most of these drivers has managed to get through the first part of this lap okay. So for the most part, everyone looks as though they've got all their wheels pointing in the right direction, having a look all the way back through the field. And in fact, most of these drivers are still circulating on the racetrack as the leaders coming out of the bus stop chicane for the first time. And a great battles though.
Too wide through Blanchimont at nearly 300 kilometers an hour. Richie Stanaway on the outside takes the position from Simon Guttel here into the bus stop chicane, and behind them Christian Lorente and Teemu Ivonen fighting for what it is 12th position right here. First lap completed, and United Rumi already got a quite big gap of 1.4 seconds. Of course, benefiting from the little bit of issues behind him. Alexi Usiakola and Mogadegi Philo in 3rd. Emil Spindle trying to close the gap right there, and I think he's just about in the slipstream.
Yeah, and Yakola in the 2nd position, he was 1.5 seconds as they came past the start-finish line. He's just outside that draft, and that was so important for the 76 car to break that draft here early on, and he just drove a blistering 2nd and 3rd sectors on that first lap. And having a look at Yakola, doesn't look as though he's closing at all for the moment on this 2nd lap.
It's going to be hard to close in, and it's going to be even harder to really make the pass here. So little benefit from slipstream, and so far not really a big of a deal for the drivers to follow. But if it comes to overtaking, you really need to get the run out of the turn. You need to have the run for the straight, and you need to be super late under braking to really make the move here. And it's going to be especially difficult at such a track.
Yeah, just checking in on the 33 car of Emil Spindle in the 33 machine, and he's got himself up into the 4th position after qualifying for this race in the 6th spot. So he's been able to get himself past Enzo Benito and David Ecroft early on in this race, and for Spindle, that is a good start for the 33 car.
Yeah, not only for Spindle, now looking through the grid and seeing where the guys actually started. And so far, Joni Termele started from 24th position, and I believe he's already almost in the top 10 here. Top 10 here. That should be 12th position for him now. So 12 positions of a markup in the first lap for him. Actually, first 2 laps, as we're going to complete the 2nd lap right now. So Termele, one of the biggest gainers here at the start. Also, PJ Sturgis made some positions, and well, that means we've also got some losers here at the start. Jason Lovett lost some positions here, and also it doesn't really look good for Pierre Obitsu, who is the first one in the pits right now. It looks like his front wing is already bent, and he has to make some repairs.
Yeah, so he's coming on pit road. He will try and use this to his advantage in some way to try and sort his strategy out, but that front wing is completely bent out. He's going to get himself 4 fresh Bridgestone tyres, and he'll top up with race gas as well, getting that front wing replaced. He's just about to come back out on to the racetrack. But looking back at your race leader, Yude Namuri in the 76 car has got that gap kind of stabilised for the moment. It doesn't look as though Yakola can really charge him down.
And Yakola is in the lead, and I wonder what happened there. Yuda Narumi just disappeared for a second there, and we're going to get you a replay. And I believe he had a slowdown, and we have to explain that for you, of course. Going off the track with more than 2 wheels gives you a slowdown, and especially the rules in the Eau Rouge are very harsh. So if you cut too much over the left side, you get a slowdown immediately. So Yudai has been pretty safe here, but yeah, maybe a bit nervous there, loses his concentration, and now Alexius Yakola takes the lead.
Yeah, for Yakola, that is pretty much a gift on a silver platter for him there. And we'll keep an eye out to see whether that 76 car can try and find a way back up to the rear wing of the 54 car of Oleski Jussi Yakola, who is now your race leader by about 7/10 of a second on the racetrack as they come past the start-finish line once again to put the third lap in the books. Looking back through the field, we've got ourselves an interesting battle for 6th position. This is Davey Decorps and Enzo Benito. They are battling for 5th and 6th positions on the racetrack, with Emil Spindle just a couple of tenths of a second further up the racetrack. And it's just what I was saying, Marius, that the gap between these kind of like top 5 drivers is very close, especially with Spindle, Benito and Decorps.
And you're not made used to that if you have been following the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. You had the top 5, let's say top runners, who managed to break free from the grid relatively quickly, and here you've got the first top 10 in 6 seconds in fact, so not just the first few cars or the battle around position 6 is very close here, but also even further down the grid the guys haven't given up and created a gap here. So we've seen Udai being in front for some laps and now Alexi's in front for some laps. Just 1 second of a gap, and it doesn't look like that's gonna help you a lot there.
Looking on board with the 72 car of Richie Stanaway. He's currently circulating in the 8th position on the racetrack. The gap between himself and Samuel Lieber in the 31 car is about 4/10 of a second. And Stanaway's picked himself out about an 8/10 of a second gap over Simon Cattell in the 57 car respectively. But it looks like Stanaway's kind of running that mid-pack at the moment, and he's trying to keep on that momentum from the end of season 3 that you were talking about a little bit earlier on today.
Yeah, and well, my bet on Alexi doesn't seem to be so far off, and I think I've forgotten to ask you what your bet for the races, so who's your favorite?
I'll tell you at the end of lap number 44.
Alright, sounds like a deal there. But you just said it, I've been looking through the grid again, and for example Richie Stanaway seems to have a bit of a trouble here. Known for winning the series, I think it was season 2 or 3 here, so he made an entry in iRacing rapidly and already won his first season right away. That of course being one of the most popular and difficult seasons in the whole service. Still he seems to struggle here, only 8th position for him.
Yeah, and just getting word that João Cordasso in the 65 car is out of the race. I'm just trying to figure out what happened to him, but the 65 car is out. So it's a big crash down at Lacuna there just a moment ago. Coming down into Lacuna itself, Cordasso in the 65 car gets a little bit wide, comes back out onto the racetrack, and I'm just trying to see who that was, but I think it was Chester Pedersen in the 80 car who collects his rear wing. And then, as that was going on, the cars were just flying around there. I think about 4 cars involved in total, as you had Xavier Busson just very close. I think he just got away with it. Actually, I take that back. Busson was involved in that, and he's got himself some front wing and some suspension damage.
So not only Pierre Ubizu had to visit the pits so far, also it appears that Jason Lovett has a bent rear wing, so also he has been in the pits to fix that. Still though, the car seems to be very squirrely, and Lovett, also known from the DWC, not made the cut into the top 25 and now has to go through the entire series of the Pro Series here to make it back to the DWC.
Yep. Checking back in on your race leader, it is still the 54 car. Yakora still leading the way. The gap is now 1.2 seconds to the 76 machine of Narumi, who is trying his best to kind of stick with Yakola now. And the first couple of laps, it was all the 76 machine, but now Yakola's cut out front. You know, he's been able to stretch his legs. Mace, this could be what you're talking about. That dirty air is really hurting some of these cars as soon as they get into traffic.
Yeah, and as soon as the field spreads out, like we have now, lap 6 just begun, it might be a bit more difficult to actually gain a position here. It's not that easy to defend it still, as one mistake is of course enough to lose one position here, but with cars being relatively close behind you, you're still able to relax somewhat, so you don't have to drive under the absolute limit and defend your position. As soon as you reach a certain gap to the front or to the rear, the draft just seems to disappear, and the chance to overtake also does, of course.
Indeed, and don't forget you can keep in contact with us on Twitter all race long. Use the hashtag iRGlacier. Shout out to Rob Carty saying, go Radicals, and I know you're going to disagree with that one, Marius. We'll move straight on with that. That battle for the mid-pack, it is now David Decox in 6th, Samuel Lieber in 7th, Richie Stanway in 8th, Samuel Kittel in 9th, Christian Lorente in the 10th spot, and Timo Evening are all separated by less than 5 seconds on the racetrack. These drivers are kind of, just running on rails at the moment, but people are struggling to try and find a way to close right up to the rear wing and make a pass.
Yeah, and currently looking at the lap times driven by the drivers here on Spa. Especially Alexei Luciakolo just posted the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 48.1. Of course, he's got the cleanest air, and behind him Yuday Narumi lost quite a bit in the last lap, only 0.4 for him, so that's 0.3 down. And then Emil Spindel, Mogadegi Filho and Enzo Bonito still in the 48s. So these guys, even though they are fighting, they are a little bit slower, but not much, and especially in their fighting group, they seem to maintain the same lap times overall. This time across the line, lap 7 begun, and he once again Alexius Jakola 0.2 quicker than Yuday Narumi.
Indeed, and I'm having a look at that battle from 3rd position with DG Filo and Spindel, and it looks like the 33 car is out of all of these drivers, the one who can really get up closest to the car in front the most, but he's struggling, I believe, a little bit on top line speed because he's not really gaining much in the draft there at all over the 62 car.
Yeah, and it just seems that as soon as you get out of this little bit of draft, which you still have, it seems that you can break free of somewhat. Last lap 1.4 seconds, this lap 1.7 between 1st and 2nd place, Usiakola and Narumi. So it might be enough to just drive out of this 1 second draft bit to make the cut here and to drive free, but that definitely doesn't go for Filho, Spindler and Bonito. They are all within 1 second, and these are 3 cars and not 2.
Yeah, and Benito really is charging these previous couple of laps. Benito really coming into the picture in his 73 machine. And you have you look at those drivers as they go through the Fungus chicane. Benito is just able to stick right with Spindel in the 33 car. And this battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th is going to go all the way through this race. And I know a number of the drivers are really keeping their eye out on that battle, so we'll make sure we check back on that throughout this race. A little bit further down the field, it looks like people's getting a bit spread out. Just having a look at Paul Hildrank and Andrea Boldi. They're battling for 16th and 17th positions on the racetrack. And, I mean, these drivers, they still only 20 seconds off the race leader, but different strategies might be coming into play for some of these guys. Maybe trying to do it on a different strategy option to the guys up front.
It might, and especially when they do, you might want to be the guy defending against some guys, because if you are the one to stay out longer, it has been proven various times that if you stay out 1 lap longer, it might be enough for you to even extend the gap over that 1 second of which is the draft limit. So with a little bit more conservative strategy here and managing to keep the car in front of your competitors in the first stint, it might be the way to go, but still, of course, the race with 44 laps does require more than just 1 pit stop, so it might all be thrown away as soon as the 2nd pit stop is made.
Working on lap number 8 here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, lap number 8 of 44. Aleksei Usiakola is still your race leader with Yuday Narumi in the 76 car in 2nd position. The gap between Yakola and Narumi is now up to 2.1 seconds, and the gap between Narumi and Filo is kind of stretched itself out to about 1.3 seconds on the racetrack. But the battle at the moment is between Spindel, Benito, and this is about for the 4th and 6th positions. But it looks as though now Spindel is having to defend from Benito a little bit. He's dropped back by a couple of tenths of a second each of the past 2 laps from the 62 car of DJ Filo.
Yeah, and especially in the first stint, it's really important to really make the gap. Depending on your strategy, you might want to make it a bit more conservative throughout the race or make it more aggressive throughout the race. And being a little bit more conservative might be the way to go if you have enough gap. And to create this gap, the first bit of the race is always the one which is most used to that. So in the battle between Emil Spindel and Enzo Bonito for 4th position, currently Spindel seems to be not only a bit quicker, as he's just closing in on Mogafilo as well, but also he might be the one running a more aggressive strategy.
Yeah, and that strategy thing, we don't know what fuel these guys have got on board, and do you think anyone in here is going to try and play it differently in that top 10 drive? Is going to try and play it differently to perhaps Yakola out front?
It's really hard to say. Currently taking a look at the lap times once again. Yudai Narumi managed to get into the lap times of Alexei Usiakola, both running very low 48s in the last lap then. Moga Filho already 2/10 down. But then the battle for 4th position, Spindle and Bonito, even though they haven't been fighting, doing 148.6, over half a second down. And Davide Cor, who had to drop back a bit, already closing in once again 148.1 for him. It's really hard to say who's on which strategy, because the guys are doing so much different lap times, because sometimes they are heavily in the draft, sometimes they're RTM, sometimes they manage to break free a little bit. And yeah, I think after the first stop we should see where this really goes. And the first step, of course, redefining the whole race and defining the second stop. And then we should know who's really got a shot at winning this.
Enzo Benito down at the Coombe there, that previous lap, just put his nose to the left-hand side. He's going to try and work it around the outside, thought better of it, but he is putting an absolute ton of pressure on Emil Spindel in the 33 car for the time being, as they come down into the bus stop chicane once again. It looks as though Spindel has got enough, so he doesn't need to defend too heavily, but it is definitely this first sector of the lap where Benito is a lot stronger. As they come past the start-finish line again, the gap between those two drivers is, what, 4/10 of a second on the racetrack, but Philo has now pulled out a 1.6-second gap over Emil Spindel. And Marius, when you're having to defend from a driver, you're always losing time to the car out front. Just because you're looking in your mirrors, you're taking a slightly different line to, you know, make sure someone doesn't slip it down the inside. But Benito's got a great draft as they're coming out of Radiard down the Kemmel straightaway once again.
Yeah, and it could be enough for him to make the move this time. Spindle going to the right, Bonito sticking to the left, trying it around the outside. That could work in Lecombe, but now he has to stick back, too aggressive, and that might be the chance for David Decourt now. Of course, he's the one benefiting in this. He's the third one to benefit from the battles ahead. And, well, Philo might just be laughing as Bonito makes the next mistake here in the turn just after Lecombe. So he's really running into a bit of trouble there. And once David Decourt is closing in, they're just going to lose more time. And of course, Moga Philo in 3rd position is he's going to like that.
Yeah, and by the way, this is a Marius Goldenbeck who claimed that he knew all the corners before he came on air, but we'll let him off for that one. But definitely, and whilst this is all going on, Philo is pulling out that gap even more. Decourt is closing up even more. And there was a big aggressive moves there by both Benito and Spindel. I mean, Spindel looked to the right, was holding his line, then moved to the right hand side. He was going to make Benito go the long way round, and it just looks as though if you've got the line going into Lecombe, you're always going to take the corner, and Benito learned that the hard way there.
The field is spreading out more and more, and it is being somewhat crystal clear at who has the best chances of making this the first race victory of the season so far. Alexei Usiakola, race leader, 10th lap of the race completed, and 33 laps to go here, so we've got a long way till the checkered flag. Yudai Narumi is your 2nd place driver, Moga Philo in 3rd, and Moga has been extending his lead to 2.2 seconds to Emil Spindel. Spindel in front of Bonito, Decourt and Libert in 7th, and in 8th only Richie Stanaway. And I have to say, the Red Line driver being one of the fastest guys here in the Grand Prix series, almost being compared to Gregor Hutto or Hugo Lewis already, and he's not really having that much luck so far.
Indeed, and a number of these drivers we expect to see some big performances from. You just mentioned a couple there who, you know, I wouldn't say doing badly, but we perhaps expected a little bit more of them. And having a look at Narumi in that number 76 Nexus Esports car, and he's kind of managing that gap now. He's only losing about 1/10 of a second here, 1/2 of a second there, and he really is holding his own in that 76 car. And I know that Nexus Esports are one of the newer teams to make their entrance into the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing, but already a big performance for him.
Already, definitely, within 2.5 seconds to Alexei Usiakola, who of course had his show in the DWC multiple times already, so he's counting to one of the more experienced guys. Emil Spindel in 4th, also coming from there, and also Samuel Libert in 7th, of course, known from the DWC. But Yudai being relatively new to the scene, it is quite a surprise there. First pole in the qualifying, and now he really seems to get in the zone for this race. 47.9 for him, and just a 48.0 for Alexi there. So, Will, do you think we could maybe see a little trend to the settings there? I mean, in the first laps, Alexi seemed to push so far. In the 5th lap, he was just about as quick as now. And of course, the car's burning fuel, you'd expect them to get quicker. And for now, that only has to be true for Udai there. So I'm not to be confused, of course, but it just seems like Udai is getting in the zone right now, and Alexi's putting a mistake here and there.
Well, yeah, but not only that, if you push that car too hard, you know, those tyres heat up too much. I mean, wear on these cars isn't the critical factor, it's the temperature of the tyres that is more important. And I think, you know, Yakola might have been pushing just a little bit too hard. You might have to ease it off the next couple of laps to try and, you know, cool those tyres down just a little bit. Otherwise, Narumi will have the chance to close that gap back up. I mean, it's only 2.1 seconds on the racetrack at the moment, and there's not been much between them, really. But I think that Yakola's just been perhaps pushing that car a little bit too hard, too early on, and he might just need to calm it down just a little bit. Keeping an eye out on this mid-front pack battle, I'm going to call it. It looks as though Benito's dropped off now by about 8 tenths of a second from the rear of Emil Spindel. And just as we were talking about the tyre temperatures there, it could be coming into play for Benito here because of the fact that, you know, he had those laps where he got very, very close, but all of a sudden he can't really close back up to the rear of the 33 machine.
The first pit stop not coming up, if you will, but we're expecting it to be around lap 17 for a 2-stop there, and about lap 13, 14 for a 3-stop. But so far it looks like 2-stop will be the way to go. So the guys have got about 5 laps to go to the first pit stop. And well, 2 seconds on the track is a bit. I mean, you see the car in front, but you're not exactly very close to it. On the pit stop, however, missing your pit stall and having to go into reverse to just reverse 1 meter, if you will, if you just miss your marshal, it is really pretty much 2 seconds already.
Yeah, sorry, and we've got, yeah, and Benito's got another run coming down into Lacombe. He's going to try and go down the inside. They're going to be very close. Benito is going to touch. Benito's spinning it around there. He is going to try and get back out onto the racetrack, but he made the move. It didn't happen for him there. Spindel closed the door. Benito is now going to try and bring that car down towards the pit road, I'm sure, because he's going to have some suspension damage there, but that was a big move there for Benito down into Lacombe. I'm having a look at the replay of it. You'll get it on your screen in a moment. But it just looks like Benito was on the right-hand side. He had the corner, and it just looks as though Spindel just came down onto him.
Well, I wouldn't really say he's got the corner. He's been more than half a car behind Emil Spindel, and just putting the nose in is not enough to give him the corner. So Emil had all the right to turn in there, and Enzo being a bit too light on the brakes there. It's hard to leave a space, of course, going into the comp. But Emil can't exactly leave him all the track open, so a little bit of contact enough to spin Emil, to spin Enzo out, of course, and Emil looks as though his car is unharmed, continuing now. So Enzo has dropped from 5th position, actually the battle for 4th, down to 9th right now. Of course, benefiting especially Davide Korb, because now Davi takes over the role of Enzo, and he's in 5th position right now, charging down Emil.
Indeed, and you and I are going to disagree on that. We'll get our GlacierTV Super Slow-Mo cam on that one, probably after the race, to have a more in-depth look at it. But the key fact is that Benito's coming down the field. Spindel is still sat in the 4th position, with David Decox now up into 5th. And while that all was going on, you know, DG Philo, sorry, oh, shut up, in the 62 car, he is managed to stretch that gap out now to 3 seconds. So it was almost all for nothing there. Spindel has lost himself 3 seconds, so he did also lose out, and now he's going to have to try to just close the gap back down to the 62 car.
Well, and DJ Philo just seems to be shaping up to a similar popularity than Leski, of course. Nevertheless, back to the action here. Udai in 2nd position, not only breaking free from Mogar here, who's also seemed to go in the zone right now. Udai is almost under the 2 seconds, and Alexi had the great start. He took the position from Udai when he made the mistake. But now it looks like Udai's back to the old strength from the start, if you will. So he's going to go under 2 seconds this lap, hopefully. Looking like a good lap. Last lap putting in the fastest lap of the race, 1:47.8. Just as fast as Alexi was 5 laps ago. And I'm not really sure if it's setup choice of Alexi that the car is going a bit slower right now. It just seems that Udai is really putting the car to 100% right now.
He is, and I've just been having a look at some of his laps, and they have been pretty much picture perfect. He's getting everything out of his car, but if you look at his onboard, we'll try and go on board with him, he really is smooth in that race car. He's not being too aggressive, and I think that's what's helping him. The fact, I mean, he's got that gap, for example, now under 2 seconds for the first time in about 15 laps. But I say 15 laps, I meant 10 laps. But, you know, he's driving so smoothly, and that's what's the critical factor there. And we're just having a look on board with him now. This is Narumi in the 76 machine. He is coming down to the Lacoon complex, that right, left, right, 90-degree corners pretty much. But taking through the middle part of this lap mode is when you have to be picture perfect from your drive onwards.
Yeah, Udai coming down into Stavelo right now, and he's just not even halfway through the track here, and well, 7.007 kilometers long, now going into Pujon, almost flat out in the FW31. Double left-hander here, the second part of course being flat, and the first one you just have to lift and shift down. Now in the S's right and left in 4th gear mostly with this kind of setup. Getting a clean run, avoiding the off-track on the right side, the AstroTurf. Into the right-hander here as well, off-track on the left side. Now going out, approaching Blanchimont, shifting all the way up into 7th gear. Of course, the car's running with the highest possible downforce setting, so they barely even reach 300 kilometers an hour. He's still got, as you can see, Alexius Jakola in front of him, clearly inside. Heavy on the braking just after the curb starts on the left side into the bus stop chicane. First gear from almost 300 down to less than 100 and out of the last turn and across the line.
Yeah, and as they come past the start-finish line, he'll go down into La Source, the biggest braking zone on the racetrack. He'll flick it onto that curb, and then we'll stay on board until they come back into the Kemmel straightaway, because this is a sight you always want to see. Rolling it down the hill, they'll flick it to the left into Eau Rouge, and then into the right. We're into Radion now as they flick it left once again, using all that curve again. Picture perfect there. You don't want to take too much on the left-hand side, otherwise you had what happened to him earlier. He will have to swerve, a slow down penalty. But really, in that 76 car, driving beautifully at the moment. The gap is now down to 1.7 seconds. Looking a little bit further back through the field, I see a couple of drivers making pit stops. Paul Ilbrank and is making a pit stop, as is Thiago Afaro, I believe. In fact, no, I believe he's just made a pit stop. But Xavier Bousson is back out onto the racetrack, as is Enzo Benito. He has made his first pit stop of the day. And for Benito now, he has just got to charge to try and salvage something after his race went horribly wrong.
Yeah, and Decorp and Bonito being in pits, and these were the guys in the battle for 4th position, of course. Bonito dropping back to 10th after the little bit of an incident with, I believe it was Emil Windel, yes it was. So, early pit stop for Enzo. Not really sure if that was a safe pit stop, if you will, so he might be checking for a little bit of damage and repairing that. But I think, yeah, to really make the move and really charge down, that might be a bit early. And I'm keeping an eye on this. And of course, Mark Fangman in our grid is also keeping an eye on the pit stops here. So as soon as the guys come in, and they do. That is a positive commentator's curse this time. The top 3, the top leaders all in, and even 4th position, Emil Spindel in. So that is just 1 lap, and Samuel Libert in 5th position stays out. And now we're going to see which strategy really pays off. And it's really an early choice for all of them here to come in right now. And I believe on the pit exit, Udai very aggressive here and already closed a bit of the gap.
Yeah, and Udai's got to be so careful. I believe he just got perfectly into his box there. Yakola's into his box. We'll keep an eye out as these cars come out. It's going to be so close here. Yakola looks like he's just going to get it. Narumi very slow once again. Coming out of pit stops. He lost himself a couple of times per second there. Velo will come out in 3rd, so they come out as they come in. Spindel in 4th. But the key factor is that Velo's been able to put a carb in himself and Spindell. And that is in the battle for what will be 3rd and 4th position once these pit stops have sorted themselves out.
Yeah, and I wonder if Hyundai really goes with the standard strategy here. It really looks like he's fueled the car properly, so he's going for a longer middle stint. I would have thought he would short fuel a bit. He's been in the reach for leapfrogging Alexi on the pit stop, so he's missed that chance. And looking at Mogar, he probably had the worst of the 3 pit stops, just slowing down a little bit before the pit marshal and then stopping. So he's lost about 1.5, maybe 2 seconds here. And we're following Samuel Libert. He's been in 5th position before the pit stop, and is the only one actually of the top runners here who's still out. And well, he's known this track from the DWC, and his team Radicals, of course, having multiple drivers running in the top of the DWC. So you expect him to be one of the most superior guys in the strategy department here. And I wonder if really he pays off. His last lap has been somewhat quick, 48.6, and also now he comes down pit road, serving his first pit stop of the day, and will keep track on where he exits the pits. And he could be lucky, as some of the guys have been pitting out in a little bit of traffic here. For example, David de Korp. And pitting late might be the best option here.
Yeah, and if you can come in pit road by yourself, you know, you control your pace in, you control your pace out, you've got no one to put too much pressure on you, you know, you can gain a couple of positions here. And I had a look back at that pit stop with the 76 car of Narumi once again. It did look as though he was a bit slow getting onto the power, which cost him a little bit as well. And I mean, we're talking, you know, a tenth of a second here, but it just looked like that car didn't launch away as good as your Collar's car did in the 54 car. Weber is out of pit road, and he falls in back behind David Decourt by about a second and a half on the racetrack. So no harm, no foul really there for Liebert at all.
Yeah, and it looks like he's been able to close that in. Not really sure if he's short fueled it. If he did though, expecting his middle stint to be quicker of course, and it could be quick enough to close in on David de Korp, who might be closing in on Emil Spindel himself. So for Samuel it might be a good run of the second half of the race. Of course, being in lap 18, that really doesn't say too much for now. We've got 1/3 of the race done here, still got 30 laps almost to go, actually 24. Well, it's still a long race.
It is still a long race. We're currently working on lap number 18 of 44 here from the 4.35 mile circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps. For those of you who are just tuning in, welcome to round number 1 of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing on Glacier TV. We'll be with you all season long, right until the checkered flag drops at Suzuka in a little over 10 weeks' time. Out front, it is Alexi Yudiakola, who is your race leader. The gap between himself and Yude Narumi in the 76 car is about 2 seconds on the racetrack. Christian Lorente is currently, I believe, I take that back, he's just made a pit stop, so he's fallen back into the pack. So it is Marga DG Filo who's in the 3rd position, with Emil Spindel in 4th, David Dekorp's in 5th. And I take it back, it looks as though Richie Stanaway is kind of making his way through the field once again. He's got about 5 seconds to catch up to the rear of Dekorp, but he's set some pretty nice lap times recently.
He did, and we've seen it in the first bit of the race that just maybe 3 laps in a row, really putting the laps down altogether, could be enough to close the gap so far that you are in the slipstream. And once you're pretty much locked like a fighter jet in the slipstream, there's no way of shaking you off. And even through the turns, you've got enough slipstream to follow another car and then make the move on the straight. So David de Korp currently about 2.5 seconds behind Emil Spindel, and Samuel Lebert himself also 2.5 seconds behind 5th place David de Korp. And behind that, Richie Stanaway finally has found some pace there. 4 seconds between him and the 6th position Samuel Libert. So it might not be too late for Stanaway here. Maybe just a little bit of a conservative first stint for him. So he's able to close down right now. Still, your top 3 are untempered. Alexi Usiakola, 33 minutes into the race here. 1st position for you, the leader of the race. Yuday Narumi, 2nd position, 2 seconds behind Usiakola. So it really looks like these 2 guys have been having similar kind of pit stops. 3rd position, Moga Degefilo, having a bit of an issue in the pit stop, losing about a second, 5 seconds down the lead.
And we have still got 27 cars here running on the lead lap. 3 retirements to note. We have the number 55 machine of Laurent Bertil, who is out of the race. Jason Lovett is out, as is Hal Cadalso in the 65 car. They are 3 retirements out of the race, but considering the fact we had that big crash down at Lacombe on about lap 5 of this race, we expected to see a couple more drivers perhaps retiring from this race, but it looks as though most of these drivers have been able to get some from repairs and got themselves back into the picture.
We are just taking a look at the pit stops, and the GlacierTV crew has been taking an exact look at how long the cars have been standstill in their pit stalls, and it looks like second position Yudai Narumi has been the one taking the longest pit stop of the top 10 drivers, 6.9 seconds, and that is very long indeed for the Formula 1 car. So he's taken lots of fuel and a set of tires. Already down to 2.6 seconds, so he's lost 0.5 of a second in the last lap. Alexi Usiakola right down to 48.1, so I'm not really sure. We've expected the second position to short fuel on the pit stop, trying to leapfrog, but it looks like it's completely the other way around. Alexi might have short fueled a bit, and Yudai is the one with more fuel, so they might have shifted that exactly in the wrong direction.
Yeah, but Yakoda's got to now push this entire middle stint if he's going to make anything happen with that. And having a look at his lap times, they've been consistent. I mean, he's in the kind of 1 minute 48.5 ranges. His last lap was 1 minute 48.1. You compare that to his fastest lap of the race. That was at lap number 14 at 1 minute 47.827. He's currently working his way now towards the bus stop chicane to put his 20th lap in the books. And I'm really interested to see what his time is as he comes across the line once again. But he's got to really now hit every apex possible, and he can't make any mistakes here, because otherwise, his entire strategy is going to be out of the window. His last time actually 1 minute 48.0, and yeah, so it's nice, interesting times there for Yakoda. You compare that to Narumi in the 76 car, and his last lap time 1 minute 48.8, so much slower. So just having a look through the rest of the field, and I have to say that mid-pack battle is really started kicking off. This is the battle 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th position on the racetrack. You've got Yoni Tamada in the 16th spot. He's 35 seconds behind the race leader. And you've got Paul Ilbrink in 17th, who's under a bit of attack, not too much, from Gal Pino in the 78 car. Andrea Boldi in the 19th position in the 22 machine is closing down Pino for the time being, with Vasily Zaitov just about 4 car lengths behind. And even through this midfield, Marius, these drivers have got to go for every point possible. As we talked about at the start of this broadcast, the most important thing for these drivers, getting into the top 25 come season's end.
Getting into the top 25 is the aim, and currently we're talking about the lower numbers. In fact, top 3 it is. In fact, Yudai Narumi seems to have found his nemesis with the off-track zone in the Eau Rouge corner. On the left side, once again cuts across the white lines, getting 4 wheels off the track, giving him a slowdown down the straight. He has to slow down, and about losing 1.5 seconds there. Enough to put Mogafilo right behind him in the slipstream, and also Emil Spindler has seen the cars in front of him. They are going big, they are coming closer to him, and it looks like Emil is running fastest lap times of these guys. Yudai 48.8 last lap, and now crossing the line 49, no actually 50.9, so he's lost more than 2 seconds in 1 lap. And even though Mogar has also only had a 49.5, they are coming closer a lot. And behind him, Emil Spindl, David Decor, Samuel Libert, all in the middle 48s. And that is 2 seconds in a lap right away.
Yeah, and that's going to put an exclamation point on his strategy, because he needed to be consistent and try and lose as little time as possible to Yakoda out front. And with that, he lost himself 2 seconds. That 2 seconds, come the end of the race, that could be the difference between him, staying in second position or him trying to challenge for the race lead. And I think that is a big pivotal mistake, and it's the second time we've seen him do that today. And could that be the story coming out of this race, that rather than Yakoda making an interesting strategy call, it was actually the 76 car of Yadai Narumi who actually just threw his own race away?
he's not exactly thrown it away yet, but it looks like he's the heaviest car in the field so far, at least in the top 10. And Moga, Emil and Davi all seem to have a little bit lighter fuel, and especially now Alexi Usiakola stomping the grid. 48.1, 48.0, 48.1 the last 3 lap times of the Finn. 6 seconds in the lead for him, and he's really going to develop this now. He's got the chance, he's broken free, and he can really see when to make the last pit stop now, playing the conservative strategy of which we've been talking about. So Udai and Moga probably start fighting now, and Emil closing in, Davi closing in, and even Samuel closing in then, and we've got a whole new battle for second position, that is, of course.
Yep. And we'll run through your field a little bit. As I say, it is Sileski Usiakola out front. The gap is now 6.9 seconds on the racetrack. We talked about Udai Marini in the second position. We haven't really talked much about Morgadiji Filo in third, but he's closed that gap to 4 tenths per second. He's been able to pull out now a 2-second gap over Emil Spindel in fourth. David Decorp's in the fifth position. He's kind of fallen off the pace a little bit. He's now 2 seconds behind Emil Spindel, who in that battle for the fourth position. But then you've got, Narimi there is, look, on the right-hand side. He has got himself Filo looking to the left-hand side. They're going to be too wide through the comp, all the way through the comp. And that is a big move there by Filo, but he wasn't able to get the job done. Narimi a little bit aggressive there on the exit of Lacoum, manages to keep the position. But for Filo, he's wanting to try and get past, because perhaps he now knows that Narumi's got a much slower race car at this stage of the race.
And, well, within 1 lap he's seen that Narumi lost 2 seconds, so he's probably thought of a slowdown or a minor incident. But that was a great move by Moga. He's just around the outside for the entire corner, and going around the left, it's not really that much room. So both of the guys playing safe here. Great driving by the 2 guys, the Japanese and the Brazilian, in fact. And now they are being chased by the Swedish and the French, so the top 5 all being of different nationalities. So talking about diversity, that is a big bit. Emil Spindel, 4th position, closed in now in slipstream distance to Moga Fido. So Moga is the one sandwich right now. He's lost a bit to the front after this battle, and he's getting pressure from the rear. So is he going to be the one from going from profiting maybe to losing it all?
Well, we talked about this earlier on in the race. You know, it's either attacking heavily or you're defending. It's very difficult to do both, but I tell you what, Spindel is looking, he's in a very good position in that 33 car at the moment. Whilst this kind of pack is bunched back up together because of Udai Marumi, who's for the moment playing the role of Jarno Trulli in that 76 machine with the infamous Trulli trains, Spindel's been able to catch up, and if he can still manage that gap between himself and David Decorps in the battle for the 4th position, I think he could be someone who, you know, could be a dark horse for getting onto the podium. Having a look at Udai's strategy though, you have to say at this stage of the race, that was completely the wrong call.
Sometimes it is better to just follow, and sometimes it is best to make an attack. And with half of the race done, 24th of 44 laps done, it seems that Udai Narumi is clinging onto the 2nd position for some more laps. 1 second in front of Moga here, and another mistake from Moga, and now Emil is in the attack position right here, and he's trying it. Oh no, that was borderline too aggressive here. No gap for him, no place for him to overtake, and Emil just has to stick with him. And well, Samuel Libert is in 6th position and Darby in 5th, and they are all closing in if they continue that. And Emil has been long enough in the business, and he should know that probably following Moga right now to close into 2nd position is the best thing to do. Yet he starts fighting.
Indeed, and you start fighting, all of a sudden everyone's going to start losing a little bit of time. And having a look at the 6th position car, Samuel Liebert as Spindel getting very close there. I'll take that back, going into the bus stop chicane. Spindel is looking very racy once again in the middle part of the fuel run. And it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on him to see whether he's going to try and pick these drivers off one at a time to try and find a way past. But let's say in the 6th position is Samuel Liebert. He is 3 seconds behind David Decorps in the battle for the 5th position. He's in turn got a 5-second gap over Richie Stanaway in the 7th position. Benito's managed to work his way back up into the 8th position. He put a pass on Samuel Cattell a couple of laps ago to move up into that 8th spot. And Timo Evening is rounding out your top 10. And it does look as though that none of these drivers can really use effects of any draft at all, because they're all running quite a lot of downforce. And, you know, it's been down. He's not gaining anything at all down the Kemmel straightaway.
He's not yet, at least. He seems that he's close enough next time, or maybe up to Blanchimont this time. Nevertheless, Emil in 4th position, very close to Mogar, and also Davide Court now is within 1 second to the Swede here in 5th position. Even Samuel Libert in 6th is just over 2 seconds, so that has been over 4 after the pit stop. Speaking about gaps as well, Alexei's been putting down massively fast lap times. New fastest lap of the race, 1:47.7. So if some drivers in the zone in this race right now, it is really the leader of your race. Finish Alexei Usiakola almost 10 seconds right now in front, and that has been looking massively different right after the pit stop.
Yeah, you just saw that on your screen. This is a battle for the 19th position, so a little bit further down on the field. Ryan Terpstra making a big move on the outside of Miguel Martin there in the battle for the 19th position. Terpstra managing to get past, and already he's pulled out an 1/8 of a second gap over Miguel Martin in the 79 car. His next victim is going to be Vasily Zaitov in the battle for the 18th position. But Ryan Terpstra looking strong in this middle part of the race, trying to get himself up a couple of positions.
Yeah, Terpstra in fact started way down the grid, complaining on the forum that his last lap did not count, so maybe he's just finished right ahead of the checkered flag, or started his lap rather. So he's been starting in 27th position, and currently he's finding himself in 20th position, charging Vasily Taichev and Andrea Baldi. So from 27th position, that isn't all too bad. Still, he's got half of the race to go. Maybe 3 or 4 positions still to gain. Nevertheless, he looks as though he is charging his fellow competitors ahead.
Indeed, and he is having a very good middle part of his race, as I said. So he's trying to close that gap on Zaitov in the battle for the 18th position. A little bit ahead of him on the field. Having a look at Paul Ilbrank in the 74 car, trying to close down Joni Tamala in the battle for the 15th position. These are the guys who, you know, who are going to be right on the bubble, so we have to keep an eye out on the point standings as the season progresses. Because the likes of Ilbrank, Tamala, Baldi, Zaitov, Terpstra, they are going to have to battle, as I said, for every point, because that top 25 race is going to be so close. And we've seen it historically. You know, 1-2 points makes the difference, and you've got to make every race count. Having a look out front once again, it is still Aleksei Usiakola who is your race leader in the 54 car. The gap is over 9 seconds. It's approaching 10 seconds on the racetrack with Yudi Harumi in the 76 car, in the who is in the 2nd position. As he comes past the line, we get confirmation of the gap, which is now up to 9.8 seconds. But Moga DG Filo, who we saw getting right up to the rear on Harumi a couple of laps back, has dropped down now to 3 seconds behind Harumi as he's under increasing pressure from Emil Spindel. And Marius, you know, when you're having to defend, these drivers looking as though they're just losing heaps of time. And just take us through some of the things that these drivers are doing. You know, they're using very different lines into corners like the Coombs to almost try and close the door before it even happens, and it's costing them quite a lot.
Yeah, not only that is, I mean, they are losing time entering the turn by going off the racing line, of course, but also, yeah, middle way through the turn, especially in Le Combe, you want to get the speed out of the turn, going downhill, and just at that point they are losing additional parts of time, and you can see the difference clearly. Aleksei Usiakola being in the zone right now, literally got no traffic, no one in his rearview mirrors. He's nailing every lap, nearly every lap is a 47 for him, and the only one in 47s right now is Moga Filho, who's posted a 47.9 2 laps ago. And even Samuel Libert, who is relatively free, he's just got Davide Korp 2 seconds ahead. He's not been able to post these lap times. So even with that little bit of error loss, that little bit of dirty air is enough to keep you from posting these lap times. And speaking of lap times, I think Yudai Narumi has maybe burned some fuel. I'm not really sure about the strategy here, but 48.2, 48.3, it's not particularly as fast as Alexei in front, but it is fast enough to keep Moga Filo on a safe distance behind him.
Yeah, and he's keeping Filo behind him, and he's stretched that gap out. In fact, it's just closed itself back down a little bit. So it's kind of to and fro in this battle for second, third, and fourth positions on the racetrack. Checking in the battle for the 13th position, Xavier Bussons in the 69 car and Dave Geelink in the 41 car. Bussons had a huge moment down at the front of the chicane this past lap, and that has allowed Geelink to close right up to the rear of the 69 cars. They're coming out of the bus stop chicane. Bussons getting very sideways once again, and it's looking as though Bussons has just overworked his tyres, and all of a sudden he's just sliding, not only in the slow corners but the fast ones as well, and he's really struggling in the centre of these corners at the moment.
28th lap of the race, so halfway mark crossed some laps ago. It's really come to the point where we can say something about this race, really. It's been so interesting in the first couple of laps, and the top three have been so close together we couldn't say anything. But after Udai has pretty much destroyed his chances for the lead, meanwhile he's 10.5 seconds down to the lead. Alexius Yakola putting down one great lap after another. So Udai meanwhile has to look in the rear view mirror more than he has to look ahead, and another little mistake here, going sideways, and you really can see the pressure on Udai here. He's lost the drive to ahead, he's 10 seconds down, and now he's in a whole different position here. He's got the good middle stint probably with more fuel, so with the pit stop coming he's got the chance again, but until then it is quite some time. We're expecting the pit stops to happen from the 30th lap onwards, and that is at least 2 laps.
Yeah, so they pitted on lap 17, 18 this last time by. They'll probably pit again around lap 33 through 36 on these drivers. They're using different strategies. We might expect Udai to go a lot later. We expect him to perhaps go to about lap 38, 39, do a very short final stop. Not going to be able to gain those 10 seconds though, unless he has a blistering set of laps in that sequence of pit stops. Things, interesting all over for the time being, however. Having a quick look at that Geelink battle, he's still right on the rear of Bussons, not able to do anything of it. But a little bit further ahead in the field, having a look at Enzo Benito, of course, he was a driver battling for a top 5 position earlier on in this race. Had that moment down at Lecumbe with Emil Spindel in the battle for what was then 4th position. Dropped back through the field, worked his way back up into 8th, and it looks as though he's catching Richie Stanaway by a couple of attempts for the second lap.
Enzo, of course, got the pressure right now after the battle between him and Emil Spindel. Spindel going unharmed from that, and that has been quite a massive contact, so he's been very lucky from that. Still though, Enzo Bonito being chased by Simon Cattell, and Richie is quite a bit away, and the lap times aren't really that much different. Still though, Enzo got the a bit of a problem there, really following Richie. Still though, he's got a lot of pressure going on, and I think he's not really too happy with the situation he's in right now.
He's not, and a number of these drivers are probably, post-race, they're going to have a long, hard look to see where they went wrong. We talked about Udai, who had the chance to perhaps go for the race win. I say that strategy was the worst call he could have made in this race. Some might disagree with me, but the stats show it. Even if you take out those 2 slowdown penalties he's had in this race, he still would have been about 6 seconds behind the race lead, and that's the important factor. Benito, he's going to be very angry with the way that pass went out at Lecumbe. A number of other drivers are going to be very upset at the way that their races have gone on. But Benito looking as though he really is closing that gap, and it's down now to under 3 seconds. And let's not forget that lap traffic starting to come into play as well. He's got Fabio Di Carmo and Pierre Briceau, who he's got to get past. But if you're working around lap traffic, Marius, I have to ask this question. Does it help you if you catch him down the Kemmel straightaway, for example? Will that give you an increase on your lap times?
Well, it's hard to speak of an increase, but at least it's not going to really cost you a lot. Lap drivers, of course, making their own race, so you can't exactly force them off the line. Still, though, you might want to get guys on the straight and not really in a corner complex. So, for example, if you get them between Couhon and the next couple of turns, or even get them in a shorter straight, so maybe in the middle of Lecombe, it's going to be a whole lot more different to keep on the lap time. And as soon as you run into a lap car, getting, of course, the dirty air from him, you can't really predict what he's doing. So, of course, he meant to go out of the way, but he can't really do that exactly when you want. Still, you can't drive through him. He's on the track just as you are. He's driving his own race, and you can't really force him to. And Samuel Hébert being the first one to pit from the top 10 right now. Alexei Usiakola just coming down pit road. And, well, Samuel is a little bit stuck behind Joni Termele right now. Just that one lap could be enough. I mean, he's got more fuel now, but he's got the freshest tires of them all, and he's coming between Paul Ilbrink and Joni Termele, and that is the position I do not want to be in after a pit stop.
Yeah, as DG Philo is pitting from the 3rd position. And have a look at Lee Burt. If I remember right, he was one of the last drivers to pit in the first round of pit stop. He's the first driver to pit this time by.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly frustrating for him right now. He wanted to make a move in the middle stint right now, and Joni is still not pitting, so he's on the long middle stint right now. And well, Samuel wanted to use the middle stint to gain time. He's managed that. He's got the gap down to Davi by 3 seconds almost, so he's down by 2 seconds now, and just one lap is enough to destroy all of that as Davi de Koop comes out of the pits, and it looks like he's back to 4 seconds.
Yeah, so Yakola is come out of pit road. He had a car who's run very wide in the middle of Lecumna. That was Simon Cattell in the 57 car, who almost put paid to Yakola's race there. So Yakola has made his second and last pit stop of the day, and make a note of it, it was at the end of lap number 30. Yudai Narumi, we're keeping an eye on him to see when he makes his pit stop. He's of course going to inherit the race lead for the time being. He was 10 seconds behind as the sequence of pit stops started, but he's still got a chance. If he can do some blistering laps now, he has got the slightest chance of gaining a lot of time, but it's really going to be a case of him having to hope everything goes his way from now on in. So we're keeping an eye on these drivers who have pitted, and it looks as though for the most part it is just Yudai Narumi who has got to come in. Richie Stanaway is still circulating on the racetrack in the 72 car. I believe he hasn't made his second pit stop of the day yet. We're expecting him to come down this time by, indeed he does. So he's pitting from what was at that time 3rd position.
Richie Stanaway down to pit road, and that leaves Enzo Bonito out on track in 2nd position right now. Bonito, of course, we've been remembering that, right behind Stanaway, and now he's running across the track, and he's the one to be out longest together with Yudai here. So it's going to be interesting to see how much Yudai can make up by staying out longer. Of course, being 10 seconds down, he's probably not making that up. Still though, if he wants any chances, I mean, it's still not said that Alexei drives this to finish without any mistakes. He needs to put the power down, he needs to put the right foot down to the metal and get the last stint spot on. Alexei with the 2 or 3 laps longer last stint, of course heavier car. He's now being held up a little bit by Enzo Bonito, at least running in his dirty air, and we're expecting Enzo to pit in this lap. It might have also costed Alexei 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah, Bonito, he's just trying to use a different strategy now to get himself up to track position. This could work out for him. His last laps have been consistent. He had a 1 minute 48.7, that's going to hurt him, and then in 1 minute 48.5, which might also hurt him, but he's still circulating on the racetrack, keeping an eye out on Narumi, of course, to see whether he comes in this time by. As I said, I personally expect to see him in around perhaps lap as late as lap number 36. So, of course, whenever I say that, they're going to come down pit road this time by. So we'll keep an eye out on him as he comes into the bus stop chicane. Once again, he's working on lap number 32 now. In fact, yes, he does come into pit road. So your race leader, Yudai Narumi, is onto pit road for the 2nd and final time here today, with 12 laps left to go in this race. Down to the 37 mile an hour speed limit. He's going to bring it all the way down this very long pit road. Jesper Pedersen is also on pit road as we speak. Benito is going to go past, so he stays out for yet another lap. But Narumi into his pit box once again.
Yeah, and I wonder if that strategy is really the key right now. It really looks that Enzo Bonito might be making up enough time to get Richie Stanaway. Stanaway being in pits 2 laps ago already, so he's got the tire seats up, he's got a bit less fuel right now, but it also takes some time to get the car on the pace once again, and this is the time where Enzo Bonito is right now. So he's even able to break free from Alexei Usiakola. Of course, it really looks like Alexei is trying to bring this home safe. Nevertheless, 48.1 for Enzo Bonito last lap. one of the fastest laps in his race so far. So he's really putting the hammer down. Comparing that to Richie Stanaway, who's just been out of the pits. Last lap for an outlap of the pits is quite fast with a 2:05. Actually, it's one of the fastest laps out of the pits. Still though, Richie is 2 laps in earlier, and well, he's got less fuel. He's got more fuel now, and he's not really been that much ahead. So
yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how that one shapes out. We're going to keep very close eye on that battle. Narumi has come back out onto the racetrack, but the gap between himself and Yakola is just phenomenal. And I think actually Yakola has stretched that gap out even further. Yakola's actually working his way now down the back straightaway, whereas Narumi is just coming out the Stavolo himself. So the gap is at least, let's say at least 10 seconds by my watch. Keeping an eye on Benito, however, he is technically in the race lead, and he does now come down onto pit road. So this is the battle who we really need to watch. His biggest challenge is going to be Richie Stanaway, currently working his way down the back straightaway. And Stanaway was 31 seconds behind, I'd say 25 seconds behind as they started this lap. So Benito is going to have to do everything right as he's working it down 37 miles an hour. He's going to get himself 4 fresh tyres. He's going to top up with fuel, and he'll come back out onto the racetrack. And Benito, he's got to make this the best pit stop he has had all year long to try and get that gap down and perhaps ahead of Stanaway. Stanaway is coming down into turn number 1. This is going to be very, very close. Benito is going to come out, just a second behind there, but Stanaway is going to get it, and once that shapes itself out, he's going to get it by about a second and a half, 2 seconds.
yeah, that is definitely less than before, especially now Simon Cattell being down and right behind him. So he's lucky to get out in front of Simon and not directly in the slipstream distance. Still though, currently in 9th positioned Vasily Zaitsev, he's also not been in the pits yet, so he's out since the 18th lap, actually the 18th lap being his first one on the new set of tires already. Yeah, 10 laps to go for him, so not really made the second pit stop here. He's going to drop back, of course, so that puts Richie and Enzo in 9th and 10th position, and then it's the question of who will be the last one in the top 10.
Yeah, and it's getting more and more interesting for that battle for the 10th position. Just having a look at Benito's lap time, so, and he really did lose that chance to, pass Stanaway on his laps between when Stanaway pitted and Benito pitted himself. He did a 1 minute 48.7, a 1 minute 48.5, some very slow lap times, which cost him about 1.1, 1.2 seconds from where he should have been. And, if he had got that, these laps nailed, he would have been right there with Stanaway in that battle. And this is why we say every lap around this Circuit des Spa-Francorchamps is as important as the one that you're about to do next.
It really is, and we've been talking about the gap between race leader Alexei Usiakola and Yudan Rumi in second. It has been about 10 seconds before the pit stop. Now it is 8.4. Of course, don't get too excited. That is still 8.5 seconds, and with less than 10 laps to go, he almost needs to make up 1 second per lap. And frankly, Moga being a great driver and also Yuda in second being a great driver, they can probably not make that much up without a mistake of Alexei Usiakola. Still though, Mogafilo in third only has been about 2 seconds behind Yuda and Rumi before the pit stop, but Yuda fueling the car to a little bit more than Moga in third. It looks like with the longer middle stint, he secured his second position so far. 4 seconds separating the third and the second so far. Emil Spindle in fourth, 1.5 seconds only down to Moga. So, well, from third to fifth, the battle between Philo, Spindle and De Korp hasn't really changed that much. Nevertheless, Libert in 6th doesn't seem to really close it. So 5 seconds between him and 5th position De Korp. Stanaway in 6th and Enzo Bonito, we've also been talking about them. And through about 90% of the race so far, we've got the same battle. So it really seems as these drivers are shaping up perfectly. And they seem to put in the same kind of lap times. And well, that's what the series is about. We've got the top runners, and even at the top, or if you're at top 5, or if you're at top 10, you're always going to find great battles.
Yeah, and that battle between 3rd, 4th and 5th, Marco GT Philo, Emil Spindell, and David D. Corps. I really expected Spindell to gain a little bit more in that sequence of pit stops. I think, you know, he's one of those drivers that could have risked going on to a bit of a different strategy because he's had the speed. He's just not been able to find a way to really close up to the rear of Philo. And, you know, but you have to plan that strategy out to make it happen, what, all the way back in lap 12, 13, and then to see it all the way through to the end. For some of those drivers, that is just too big a risk for them to have happen to them. But, you know, it can still go any way. We've seen how good Spindell is after about 4 or 5 laps on his tyres. He just finds barrel loads of speeds. There could be one more chance for him, I think, to try and make a move on DG Philo. But, you know, we've got ourselves less than 10 laps to go here at Spa. And as they say in NASCAR, it's go time.
It really is go time, 1.5 seconds between Philo and Spindle. And there's one important factor to this. Even though, David de Korp, for example, running 5th, he's chasing Emil Spindle, Moga Philo, all the great names of iRacing so far, the newcomers and the returners from the DWC. And I think as a newcomer, it is especially important to see where you stand. This being the first race of the season, and you see that you have the chance, you have the speed to run in the top 10 or even in the top 5. And Spa, of course, being a special track, the drivers had lots of training before this. Now it's going to be a bit limited with just a week to the next race. Still, though, you want to see where you stand, and after this, you probably do. And if you see you have the power to put in a top 5 result, especially talking about Yudaina Rumi and Moga Philo in 2nd and 3rd, you probably also want to put a win in and take the maximum set of points here in the next, or the few next races at least. So you know where you stand after this one. Series underway, and with only 10 races to go, 1 drop result, you need to perform just as good as any race.
Yeah, and of course next week we're heading over to Japan, to Twinrin Motegi, the beautiful complex there. I love it because it's got a 1.5 mile oval. It's not a cookie cutter, but it's a great track to be racing on the road course there, and you know, you've really got to make it happen for you. And for Yakola, he's going to have the advantage going to that race, but he's seeing there's guys who can really put pressure on him. Drivers like Yudaina Rumi, who's going to essentially be his home race. Marco GT Fili and Emil Spindell especially, drivers have been right there all race long, and because you're 15 seconds behind the race leader, it's not a big thing when you consider these guys have been racing for 36.5 laps now. So it's something to really bear in mind as the season progresses. And critically, I think that one throwaway week is going to be what makes the difference in this, not only the championship, but that top 25 battle as well.
So far, not really that much close racing on the track. Still, well, I think we've got lots of cars being within the 2-second gap where we think slipstream is getting more and more possible. 1.6 seconds between Philo and Spindle, so Philo is not really making any mistakes so far. 5 seconds between him and Yudaina Rumi, so the top 3 pretty much seems sorted. Nevertheless, if Spindle is just to gain half a second here, he's right in the slipstream distance, and that could be enough to close it further and further. And even the Korp behind Spindle is just 1.2 seconds down. So the top 2 being decided, let's say that, but 3, 4 and 5 is still wide open.
Yeah, it's still wide open, and we got ourselves 5 laps left to go here. Not 5 laps left to go, I can't count. We've got ourselves about 7 laps to go here at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. I say I can't count, I apologise for that, but it is still an SKUC Akola out front. The gap is 8.5 seconds. And Yudaina Rumi, you know, in that second position. I keep on coming back to this. I think for Yudai, there's 2 things that I think hurt his race. Those 2 slowdown penalties. Because yes, they might have only cost him about 2-3 seconds overall. You lose a draft, you lose momentum, you get angry in your race car, you start driving harder. That I think hurt him, and also that fuel strategy just didn't work. But you know, perhaps this is being the first race of the season, it could be the time to try different strategies, and he's still got himself, you know, another 8 weeks to go where he can try and get that sorted out. Having a look back further through the field, it's starting to get a lot more spread out now. That's why we're not talking too much about battles on the racetrack. We've got Martin and Andrea Boldy. They're having a battle for 19th and 20th positions on the racetrack, but it's looking a little bit, you know, nice and even between those drivers for the time being. Further through the field, Yoni Tamala and Paul Ilbrank, they're still having their battle on the racetrack, but neither yet close enough to make the pass. Dave Geelink and Xavier Boussoms, though, you know, Geelink's fallen back a little bit because he's having some lap traffic. In fact, I don't say lap traffic, actually. And Vasily Zaitov looks like he's got himself past Dave Geelink that last lap. So, looks like Geelink's had himself a slowdown penalty once again down at Eau Rouge. And, you know, it's caught a number of drivers out today, Marius, that clip through radio. And drivers have paid a big price for it. And for Geelink, it's cost them a position.
Yeah, and we've seen Yuda Narumi losing the lead after just 2 laps, going over the white lines on the left side, coming out of Eau Rouge in Radion. And the drivers, of course, know that. It's not something which just shows up randomly every lap. Still, though, you want to get as straight through Eau Rouge and Radion as you can. And going out of Radion, you're just, going through Eau Rouge and following the middle of the track is going to spin your car around. You're going through so much compression and then going over a crest and over the left curb. You need to nail the line, and you don't really see that. And we're on board with David de Korp for the battle for P4. And once again, it is Emil Spindler now closing the inside, and we've seen the outside can work. It can work. Mogafilo tried it and he almost made it work. David de Korp, however, doesn't. Brilliant line from Emil Spindler defending on the inside there. But it looks like this is the thing Moga has been waiting for in second. He's the one to defend in third. He's the one to defend now. And if Emil and Davi start fighting right now, he's get a moment of breathing space right there. And fourth position currently is Emil Spindler, fifth Davi de Korp, of course. That's going to be going on for a few laps right now. 5 laps to go, and I think Davi finally has the gap to Emil to make it a move, and we've seen he's being side by side, so he clearly had the chance. I think it's not going to be the last one, and it looks like Emil really has to struggle right a bit. His stint is fast, it's quite okay, but especially for the last 3 laps, he's lost about 3/10 per lap to Davi, and 48.2, 48.1, 48.2 for Davi. That is almost the pace of the top 2 right here. So one of the quickest guys in the field, David de Korp, right now closing in from 5th to 4th.
Yeah, and that battle for the 4th position will go all the way through to the checkered flag. And I think for de Korp, he's really got that one chance, and it's going to be on the outside of Lacoon to make it happen. But that last time, having a look at him, it looked so he's a little bit tentative when he did so, getting a little bit sideways, coming through La Source here on lap number 40 of 44. And that's going to cost him a chance to make a run this time by. But it does seem as though, if you look at passing opportunities, Marius, it really has only been Lacoum, as de Korp was very close there to having all 4 wheels off the racetrack, forcing him to have a slowdown penalty, which is completely a paid pay to this battle. But there's a little bit of lap traffic that's going to come into play in this as well, as Fabio Di Carmo, who's running in the 26th position, the first car 1 lap down. He could still have a bit of a role in this if they catch him at the right place.
Yeah, catching him at the right place is really key to overtaking, of course, that being clear without explanation, really. Battle for 6th position, maybe heating up, question mark. Richie Stanaway being in 7th, almost being sandwiched between Bonito and Liber. Taking a look at the lap times as well there, Liber has been one of the earliest drivers to pit here, so he's got the heaviest car and the worst tires. He's been in pits 2 laps earlier than Richie Stanaway and 4 laps earlier than Enzo Bonito, so that is quite a lot, and 4 laps of fuel on a 7-kilometer long track. I don't really need to explain how much that is. So Samuel has the worst car here, and he's being chased by both Richie and Enzo, and he's losing about 4/10 per lap, and Richie Stanaway almost is in the slipstream distance. 1.3 seconds for him, and 1 second behind him Enzo Bonito right away. So there's definitely coming a battle, but it's the question of whether or not Samuel Lebert is able to defend. Taking a look once again at 4th position though. Fabio Do Carmo in 26th, making way for the 4th position, and 5th position David de Korp and Emil Spindler. Spindler still holding on to the 4th position, running out of the first turn right now together with Davi, and this time it doesn't look like Davi has to run on him. Last lap he's been way closer, and of course making the move then into Le Com. Still, we're going to stick to that and see if he gets the lap right now. He has lots of slipstream, but you can just see it. I mean, he's charging down, comparing the speed, it's almost 10 kilometers more than the driver ahead. But at this point, you just stop gaining. Your gearing runs out. It's a gearing not made for that much speed. And as soon as that happens, you're just not accelerating enough to gain. And, well, the straight is long, but it's not really that long. It's not an airstrip. And at the point where you slam into the brakes, you stop gaining.
Yeah, I'm having a look at battle between PJ Sturgios and Cristian Llorente as well. In the battle for 11th to 12th position, but PJ Sturgios, he just went to the left too far through Radio. Another one of those drivers who's going to put his charge to bed by the fact that he just goes a little bit too far to the left at Radio, has to slow down. And they make these rules simply because if they didn't have them, guys will be cutting the corners, lap in, like lap out. We'll talk about the ideas of iRacing safety rating in our GlacierTV post-race show for a little bit because it's so confusing for drivers who are not member of iRacing that we'll have to take a bit of time on it. But Aleski Usiakola has got himself 3 laps left to go. The gap is stabilised now at 9 seconds between himself and Yudan Arumi in the battle for the first position. And Morgan GT Philo is still sat in the 3rd position with Emil Spindel in 4th, David Decox in 5th. We talked about that battle, and it is going to probably go all the way to the wire. I've got a feeling that the 58 car is just going to make it on the final lap. He's going to go gang ho and going to see whether we can make it happen for him. But he's got himself a nice run this time as they come out of La Source. This is what he needs. He needs to have a good run as they flick it to the left now, coming down into Eruz, and they'll flick it into Radio now. That right and then the left-hander afterwards. And I tell you what, Spindel was a little bit to the far to the left there. That was very close once again, but Decoz has got a great run. Now he's once again, he's going to make him go to the outside line. Decoz is going to be side by side coming into Lacombe, and he's going to try and make it happen. Just goes off track though, and Decoz, that is going to give him perhaps just one more chance. He made him go the long way, Marius, but Decoz just messed up his braking, messed up his turning. It was a bold maneuver on the outside. He just didn't make it happen for him though.
And it is tense. It is absolutely tense. I'm watching this very carefully and very thoroughly. That is actually, I mean, Davi is trying very hard there. This seems to be the only point where he's really got the shot. He's not getting out into Blanchimont with the overlap like that. So this is the only chance into Lecombe he has. And with the line of Emi like that, he's just defending hard on David de Korb. Of course, not wanting to give up the 4th position. You just can't make the move. And of course, Davi knows 5th position in a Pro Series race, that is a great result for your first race in the Pro Series. So he's probably want to settle for that to a bit, and he's also want to get the 4th position for a bit, so we see how that turns out. Nevertheless, we've got a similar battle shaping up between Samuel Libat, Richie Stanaway and Enzo Bonito. 2 laps to go as we cross the line this time, and it does not look like Richie Stanaway has the sufficient gap on Samuel Libat to really get the gain from the slipstream. Samuel's last lap 48.2, 48.0, so he's found the speed again. The 47s are no more for the guys behind him, so it looks like the tire wear is really kicking in for them as well. It might be the salvation for Samuel Libat to keep 6th position here. 1 lap to come. Fabio Carmo needs to let them pass. And, well, with less than 2 laps to go, it's really time for Samuel Libat for 6th and Emil Spindel for 4th to defend this and make this last.
And I tell you why Stanaway was so much slower that last lap is because Benito is charging. His last lap was a 1 minute 47.858. He's looking now to he's looking down to the right-hand side, even though he's about 5 car lengths back on Stanaway, just trying to upset him in his mirror, saying, "Hello, I'm here." Even though there's too much laps to go. Liebert, however, you're right. If Stanaway and Benito start fighting on the racetrack, Liebert is going to get 6th position. It's a granted. And I don't think Stanaway has got enough left in the car to make it happen over this last lap and a half. Benito, however, is close, and he is closing. I think, you know, he's got that one chance perhaps down into Lacombe to make it happen, but he's going to have to set up a perfect, you know, last part of this lap and an absolutely picture-perfect La Source for the next lap. Keeping an eye on Aleski Usiakola, however, through the bus stop chicane. This time by the white flag is going to be in hand. 1 more lap to go for Yakola. Marius, it's been a great go for him, but that battle with Stanaway, Liebert, Benito, that's still going on.
Yeah, we're going to stick to that, and meanwhile I've been thinking, I mean, the race isn't over particularly yet, so you need enough fuel to make this, and it just happened to Simon Cattell. He's dropped from 12th position, down right behind Andrea Baldi in 20th right now. So he had to make a safe pit stop. It doesn't look like he could make it on fuel, and that is very unfortunate for Simon Gattel. Great race by him, running behind his teammate PJ Sturgis from iRacing in 12th position. So he's not been able to make this on one fuel stop, and we're in the last lap right now. Another chance for David de Korb, maybe down the straight, but it doesn't look like he's got the lap out of the first turn. And I'd say if he doesn't get it there, it's safe and sound, and Emil is going to bring the 4th position home. Same thing around 6th position. Fabio Locamo now giving all of the guys a little bit of slipstream, and it looks like Enzo Bonito has the best run. Nevertheless, he's showing himself right again in the slipstream, in the mirrors of Richie Stanley, getting bigger and bigger. Late on the brakes for Enzo Bonito there, almost running into the rear of Richie Stanley, and he's faster, you can see it clearly. He's got the overlap, but he's not going to make this last through the lap. You've basically got no chance, and without being side by side to the bus stop, it would be absolutely haywire to try it there. And it looks like they are going to finish the race as it is now, being half a lap to go. And for Alexei Usiakola, it's just a few turns right now. Alexei coming down Blanchimont for the last time. It's gonna be 1 hour and 21 minutes for him on the track. Bus stop a last time from 7th gear, hammering down 6 gears into 1st, and then it's right and left, and he's putting the car on the finish straight, and that is victory for Finnish driver Alexei Usiakola in 1 hour 20 minutes 19 seconds, and that is a victory.
Yes, Alexei Usiakola takes victory there. The gap is going to be 8.6 seconds as they come across the line for the final time. Narumi takes 2nd position. Morgar GD Filo will come home in a hard-earned 3rd position. He had to really work for that one. Of Emil Spindel able to hold on to that 4th position with David de Korb running at your top 5. Quickly checking back. Liebert will take 6th. Stanaway will manage to salvage 7th position. Benito, a determined drive after everything that happened to him early on in this race, to claim the 8th spot with Timo Evenon coming out of the bus stop chicane for the final time. He is going to claim the 9th position in this race, with Christian Lorente coming home in the 10th position. And for PJ Sturgios, he's going to be really upset missing out on the top 10 simply because he went a little bit too far to the left once again in Radio. Otherwise, if you had to look at his lap times, he really had a shot of making it into the top 10 over Lorente.
Very, very hard race for the guys. We've seen many of the top runners on a similar pace. Great race so far. Great start into the season. Alexei Usiakola being the first of the Pro Series winners 2012 here. Great race by him. Not only by him, but also by the following guys. Yudai Narumi, of course, being being in the issue at the start with the slowdown. What would have happened if he wouldn't have had that? So big question mark for that. Nevertheless, he finishes 2nd right in front of Moga Filho, and well, it's just been a great race for them.
We'll get confirmation then of your final race results. You see the drivers there slowing it down, bringing their cars back down towards pit road. These guys thankfully don't have to have a litre of fuel left in the car, unlike some of the others, but it's a nice picture to see them there, all nicely bringing their cars down the Kemmel straightaway. But Alexei Usiakola would claim victory there over Yudai Narumi by 8.5 seconds. So Yakola wins round number 1 of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. So he's setting himself up for a championship chance. Narumi in 2nd, Modgar DG Filo in 3rd, Emil Spindel in 4th, David D. Korps in 5th, Samuel Liebert in 6th, Richie Stanaway 7th, Enzo Benito in 8th, Timo Ion in 9th, Christian Lorente in 10th. Running through your drivers from 11th through 20th, it is PJ Sturgeoff, Vasily Zaitov, Xavier Busov, Dave Geeling, Paul Ilbrink, Yoni Tomala, Ryan Terpstra, Miguel Martin, Andrea Boldi, and Diego Ferro. The rest of them coming up on your screen as we speak. Thoughts?
Well, that has been an incredibly hard race. I've said that before, but just been comparing that to the DWC race. Of course, you've got the top runners being incredibly fast, but still, this has just been faster overall. It's been more packed, and it's just been absolutely insane. And we're happy to welcome the race winner here, Alexei Usiakola. Congratulations, first race of the season, and you did it.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Alexei, For the start of the race, obviously you started third on the grid after qualifying, right behind Mogar and Udai. You've been able to make the move right away into second, but then Udai managed to break free, and he's got the slowdown relatively quickly. You probably saw him with the slowdown out of Eau Rouge, so what did you think at that point?
Well, well, it was hard to start on the third because dirty air is so bad here, and you are 1 second slower than you are in free track. So it was very important to pass Mogar on the first lap. Then I was just thinking about I just stay behind Narumi and wait for the mistake, and there it comes when the wasn't a third lap or something.
So you did the race victory in 8.5 seconds. It didn't really look that big of a gap at a long time. So you've been fighting with Udai for a long time. You've seemed to be once on a different strategy, and second, after the little bit of a mistake after Udai made that, you've been able to run free. You've been posting some impressive lap times. It really seemed that you've been in the zone. So at which point could you say you've been able to break free from Udai?
Well, I think that that second stint I had really good, and Narumi was taking more fuel than I, and that was the thing in the race. That's why I win. Why Narumi was second. Mogar get close to Narumi and he lose time there, and yeah.
So Spa. I guess it's going to be one of your favorite tracks. Just going to make that out. Second week of the series coming up, and you seem to be very strong here, obviously putting the car on third in the qualifying and winning this race. What are your aims for this season?
Well, I need a new jacket. There's all.
You need a new jacket, of course. We need a little bit of explanation for that. You win several prizes, and of course the main prize is including an iRacing jacket for the winner, and that is a great thing. And if you say you need a new jacket, you're going to get a pretty one for that. Alexi Usiakola, winner of Spa-Francorchamps here in 1 hour 20 minutes of time and 44 laps. Congratulations once again. Brilliant drive from you.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks to the team and all for support, and Kisastudio myös tuuriin terveisiä. Kiitti, moro.
Are we doing this again? Yay! Yeah, Alexi, just before you go, one quick question for you. We're going back to Spa, of course, later on in the season. Do you think that, winning here today sets yourself up nicely for the return trip at the end of the season, and what kind of momentum will that give you?
Well, of course, it's good to take maximum points on the first race because it's short season, and nobody can't make mistakes, and couple mistakes can cost so many points, so this was good.
And you are now listening to the GlacierTV post-race show delivered by I don't know who. We don't have sponsors. We're sorry. But Marius, first of all, once again, I ask you, congratulations on your race victory. But that race really came down to about 4 different stages. And I want to take us all the way back to the first one, that race start. And Udai in that 76 car, he just had a great start. And for the first couple of laps, things were just changing. I think we had 3 different lead changes in the first 3 laps.
One of it was 3 or even 4, I can't really remember, but we had a lot of lead changes, and a long time in the race, it wasn't really sure who's going to make this. The field is so close, and we've got so much quick guys here, so much guys who can actually win the race, and even in 8th position, Enzo Bonito, 26 seconds down the lead, and after 44 laps, counting that up, that is less than half a second per lap.
Yeah, really, the field spread has been something which is incredible. And we are talking about, some of the top 100 drivers in the entirety of the iRacing.com service. But one of the things that I said that we will explain after the race, for the viewers who haven't experienced iRacing before, some of those who don't understand the Pro Series format, it's very difficult to make it even to this point. You've got 30 drivers who's qualified over the course of the last 9 months, finishing in the top 10 positions of the iRacing.com Grand Prix A-Class Series. Then you've got the bottom 25 of the drivers who have finished outside the top 25, even out the drivers of the Grand Prix World Championship Series. Put my teeth back in. But just to get to that point where you're even in position to win the Grand Prix A-Class Series, you've got to work on your iRating, work on your safety rating to get to a specific point. And really, for most of these drivers, it's been a 2-year process just to get here today.
Yeah, for most of the drivers. Still, we've got the exceptions. Speaking especially about Udaina Rumi and, for example, Richie Stanaway.
Yeah, and Stanaway is one of those drivers. Of course, Stanaway is at a bit of an advantage for those of you who don't know Stanaway. He has raced a couple of races in the Formula 3.5 series and the Formula Renault 3.5 series this year.
Quick in, I suppose, Star Mazda is where I heard his name.
Yep. And he's one of those drivers who's got real life racing experience, so he's kind of at a bit of advantage. But still, for him, that 7th position, we saw him charging late on in this race, but he was under the same issues as everyone else was. But for the most part, these drivers, it's been a long, drawn-out process for them, and to now get to this first race at Spa, and specifically for these top 10 drivers to get a good finish early on, as I said at the start of this broadcast, that's kind of what they wanted. And I think out of everyone, the biggest disappointment is probably going to be for Enzo Benito, because he's about 4 places lower than he would have wanted to have finished. Marius has gone quiet on me. It's okay, I'll carry on talking incoherently by myself. But you have a look through the drivers lower down the field as well. And, we've only had, 4 or 5 cars scored less than 1 lap down. Very quickly, we have got one of them on the line, and Fabio Di Carmo. Very quickly, you finished your race 1 lap down, but you still finished in the 26th position. Were you disappointed with your race?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I had a pace to go through the top 20 for sure. I had a contact on the first corner, went 3 wide through the first corner, and then we had a contact. My pace was like 2 seconds lower in the first stint. So yeah, I'm pretty disappointed, but it's good to know my pace against the field, and it worth the experience.
And you're going over to Twin with Motegi next week. Are you looking for a better showing for yourself there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's quite a new track to iRacing. I think it's kind of an advantage for myself because I'm not as experienced as some guys on the field, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we'll see you next week at Twin Rim Motegi. Thank you very much for coming along. And so, 26th position, still to make it into the Pro Series is an accomplishment, and well done for finishing the race as well. So we'll see you next week at Twin Rim Motegi. At this time, I'm going to welcome in our Mr. Cameraman, Yoni Backman. We're just having a look at the replay of the race start here. But Yoni, Marius, after everything that went wrong last year, this it's been a great first lap, and I don't think there's any driver who retired on lap 1, which in itself at Spa is a tremendous accomplishment.
Indeed it is, and I was actually quite surprised to see the the first corner being so clean. Several pairs of cars, or even 3 wides we saw in the La Source hairpin, and naturally there is a huge runoff area to allow people to avoid spins or wrecks, and make it possible to make it cleaner and safer through it, even though you gain incident points for it. But these guys don't care about that. They just want to get out of it cleanly. But yeah, I'm very surprised to see that clean opening lap.
And you saw the one car spinning there. I can't see from my screen who it was, but apart from that, everyone was able to get around. Drivers, yes, they could use the tarmac on the outside of the source. That's kind of what it was built for, to be fair. But even once we got, through Rouge Radio, through Le Com, these drivers were driving with their heads on today, and that is the important thing, because these races, they're about an hour and a half long, and the last thing you're going to have happen is your race ending very quickly. And with these long races, do you think they're attacking them in a different way to what we see some of these shorter races?
Was that for me or Marius?
anyone.
Well then, ladies first.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think there's naturally these guys are gonna give it 100% to every event they participate, but I'm not. I wouldn't say that there's any more over anxious maneuvers and aggressive overtakings going on. In fact, I would say exact opposite, because these guys are not only, of course, they're fighting for high top positions in each race, but you have to remember that if they happen to get a DNF because of possible stupid maneuver, like not saying Enzo's maneuver was stupid, but we saw what Enzo Bonito had, an incident in the Lecombe, and that could have resulted in a DNF, and that would have been disastrous for a 9-week Pro Series.
And this shortened Pro Series, not only, we lost a week, we lost one of the drop weeks as well. For those, again, who don't understand the principles of drop weeks, these drivers were raced 9 weeks, their best 8th result to take them. But losing that drop week, going down from 2 races down to 1 that they can drop, that's really going to have a huge impact on this championship. And all of a sudden, it's a lot more about consistency, and one bad result really can hurt you.
Just one result is enough, that is correct. And I've just been looking through the result while you guys have been talking, and we've not only had a very clean first turn, first lap in fact, we've only had 3 retirees, and all of them haven't really been involved in sort of big crashes and stupid maneuvers. All of them just had a little bit of contact here and there, and that's just going to happen. I mean, you can't really avoid that. Joao Cardoso, Jason Lovett, Laurent Betaille, all not finishing the race. So very interesting to see also the safety rating gain and loss from the top 17 drivers. Only 4 made minus on their safety rating. So Spa being a track having a lot of runoff areas, but of course using them also gives you an off track. And Timo Ivonen, for example, in 9th position only got 1 of them, and Vasily Chaichev in 12th position haven't even got a single off track in a 44 lap race, and that is quite an achievement. Taking a look still at the top 5, David de Korp and Emil Spindel both having 13 incidents, and Moga Filho having 12. They've not really lost or gained much, so even coming out of this race with ±0 is quite an achievement. Still, these drivers running the Pro license, of course, losing more than Class A, still significantly more, you have to say. And for example, Yudai Narumi in 2nd position with 5 incidents, he gets still +085, and well, yeah. At Spa, you couldn't really ask for more.
No, you couldn't. And one of the things that we always talk about at Spa in the standard iRacing.com series is just how it's a track where you can lose a lot of safety rating very easily. For those of you, again, who haven't understood iRacing that much, haven't watched iRacing broadcast before, hello, welcome, first of all. But these drivers, as well as racing for positions, they are assessed by their iRating, which is, how good they are as a driver, per se, but also by their safety rating. How safe are they on the racetrack? Because the last thing you'd want is someone who's very fast, but crashes a lot. And the safety rating works that you get 1 incident point for an off-track incident. You get a 2 incident points if you lose the control of your car or have minor contact with the wall. Or you lose 4 points if you have contact with another driver. So, yeah. At this time, we'd like to welcome in Modgar Filo. Modgar, you came home in the 3rd position. So, first of all, congratulations for this race. But you had a tough battle on your hands all race long.
Yeah, Will, thank you for the congratulations. I had a very tough race. I ran into some ISP problems just before the race. I believe somehow they entered on maintenance or something like that, that I had to run with poor latency and poor connection the whole race. Even saw some cars flying in my screen. So I had to keep my mind, keep calm and drive the car as smooth as I could, avoid as much as I could to fight for position. I had an opportunity to overtake Yudai that was very fast. I believe he got a black flag on Eau Rouge after going a bit off track, but I couldn't fight with him due to connection. But I think that I could arrive at the position my car allowed to do, so I have really to thank the Team Radicals for the support. Without them, it would be impossible to get a podium, and I'm quite confident I will be on top 25 to get the DWC license.
You've had a great race indeed, and of course in the qualifying you put in a great lap time, just 200 down off the lead. And of course the question for you were, first of all, first round of the season on Spa. So is Spa a track which you would say is one of your favorites?
Yes, from the tracks on the service, Spa is one of is my favorite track. I practiced a lot before the season. I took a break after season 2, did some DWC races to get used with the long distance of the Pro Series, and had a very good lap on my practice sessions. And I think that I could go very close to my best lap, and fortunately could start on first row. Too bad that I got the first position at start, but there is a quite long straight that's easy to the guy behind get your draft and overtake you, so I lost the position for Yudai and Alexi at the start, but they were driving great. It would be very difficult to keep in front of them, even though we got almost the same strategy.
Great and fair and especially very clean race from you guys overall, so props for that. Great entertainment. You said you put in a lot of practice, of course. You've had time between the end of the DWC and Season 3 and the start of the Pro Series especially, so the schedule has been announced for some time and you had time to practice that. Now you've only got 1 week until Twin Ring Motegi. How will you be able to cope with that?
Well, Motegi, I did race at the DWC, so I already practiced for it before. Of course, we have to see how the car have changed on this new physics for this season. But the suspension setup hasn't changed so much for me from last season to this season. So I think I have already a good base of setup, and I think that it will take less time to get into the rhythm that's needed for this kind of series. We have to remind that to qualify to the Pro Series is a long project, and most drivers that got the Pro license are very fast and consistent. So we can't take big breaks, have to practice a lot and do the best at the right time.
And final question, just how important is it having that Radical Steel Series team around you? I know you've got a lot of support from people like Blake Tanner and Andy Kirstoff, for example. Just how important is their support in helping you through this Pro Series?
Well, being on a team with a so complex car like the Formula 1, you have 4 pages of parameters for setting up the car, and a lot of them change the car behavior quite dramatically. So when you are on a team that helps you on find the correct parameters to be fast, and also to put you pressure when practicing together. It's very important, so you can go to the race thinking on your driving and controlling the race pace and the car tire wear. So I think that being on a team is very important, and Team Radicals has a lot of experienced drivers that shared a lot of information with me, and I really think that their support helped me to get this result.
Well, 10-4, say hello to Andy Kay and everyone for Radicals for me, but good job. Congratulations on the podium, and we'll see you next week at Motegi. And Marius, just before we finally sum up, final thoughts. It's been a good race, it's been a hard race, but most of all, it's been a very safe and competitive race as well. And I think that's one of the best things that we need to take forward over to round 2. In fact, sorry, I believe...
Especially... No, sorry, I'm here. Never mind. Especially that. You just about said it. I was amazed about how clean it was. Even in the DWC, I can't remember a single race which has been less incident-full than this, even though it provided so much of actual racing. I mean, the guys have been so close together. You heard it from Mogar, who came third this day, and it's just all over the place. They've been fighting the entire race on multiple positions of the track, and no incidents so far. Only 3 people to DNF, and out of 30, that is a great rate. So I'm amazed. It was a great race, great result for all the guys, and it's been a fun broadcasting.
It has been. And next week we'll be back with iRacing Super Saturday. We'll be bringing you around 6 hours of live coverage next Saturday. First of all, we'll head over to Twin Ring Motegi for round number 2 of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. It is going to be an absolutely fantastic race. Motegi is such a tight, technical track that you'll see a lot of different strategy options, a lot of things come into play there, and really going to be a defining race in how the season is going to shape up. Later on in the day, of course, we'll have the Blondings MX5 World Tour, and then round number 5 and 6 of the Proto Ice $1,000 Cup. That will be taking place at Suzuka. Start time for that, of course, will be at 8 p.m. GMT. Meanwhile, for myself, Marius, and Yoni, and Mark Fangman, it's been great. Aleski Yusi today sets his sights on the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship, but it's still a long road and there's still a long way to go. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.